So's Mike.
It's an all-star show. Star-studded show. Ed, I don't want to get you too excited, but those people over there are eating wings.
Yeah. Are there?
Right. I can hear the cash register.
Where is that?
This is at the Western Bar.
Nice.
Look at Dave. This is Kevin. I don't know. I can't remember who the guy
He's
is.
from Ronan.
Oh, that's the guy who reps us down.
Yeah.
Reps
Yeah.
he's a good guy.
And then here I am at Haps Bar like 1 in the morning.
He's another character. Another character.
That was fun. That was really fun. It was just cool being there in the last day, too. You know? People are letting some steam off, you know?
That was fun.
That hurt.
I've never been there for the last day of the session. It was a lot of fun. Check, check, check.
Check, check. We're all ready to go here. All right, you guys. Welcome to Beer Buds in the Big Sky podcast. This week we've got Dave Fern and Mike Jopek once again to go over what happened in Montana in the last 4 months. And
no Kevin this week. He couldn't make bail.
nope, he could not. He is stuck in prison, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll pass. We got a Venmo.
Yeah, we got a Venmo for Kevin, get him out of jail. And I want you guys remember to speak into the mics, too. Just because sometimes we have problems with audio.
So, Ed, I would like to start, if you don't mind, by saying
I want
this.
You to start.
So, in recent episodes...
Is this about the wings? We got to talk about the wings first.
you got people from Butte now sending busloads of people here for my wings on Wednesdays.
Yeah, right. That's great. They got nothing else to do. So, in recent episodes, Ed and I have expressed some confusion, maybe some apprehension, certainly a lot of criticism about President Trump's tariff policies. Now, maybe it's just our own ignorance as to what the end goal is with all these tariffs.
Who knows?
We talked about whether it's just another handout for the rich or whether he really has the best interests of middle America at mind. But in fairness,
Let's be fair.
I think we should begin today's show by me acknowledging that President Trump is finally beginning to address issues that Americans like myself care about. I'm talking, of course, about his new policy proposal that would place tariffs on foreign movies and make more and better movies here in America.
Hollywood.
Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big movie guy, obnoxiously so.
Yes.
So I'd like to begin today by reading this post from the president about the state of movies in America. The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA, are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. Mr. President, I support this. We need more movies, better movies in America. Ed, so what do you think? What do you think this is all about? I'll throw this open to everyone. Is this about?
It's subtitles. It's all about subtitles.
Ah, I see. So there might be a tariff exemption if he just hears the English language.
It's hard for him to read, I'm sure. He's got a lot going on.
Bigger font, not so yellow.
And it's very gay to read. And
it's pretty, that's
if I want to read a gay book, I'll go read a gay book. I want to watch an action movie.
Well, okay, a little off the subject, but freedom. We talk a lot about freedom.
Right.
The right does. And I'm telling you, I see a lot of freedoms being stripped with all this stuff. All of it. The tariffs, all the shit. I mean, all these executive orders, banning plastic straws. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? What happened? What's wrong with the paper straw companies now? Now they're all screwed up. Now they're not making any money, but whatever. It is what it is.
So
it's a war on Christmas is what it is.
Oh, you know what?
We're
That's
getting
an
there.
important one.
I'm telling you, just $2. Come on.
I know. For a guy that's going to give Elon Musk $8 billion for SpaceX
that's a lot of
or
dolls.
something.
So what's unclear to me about the tariff of this foreign movie or American thing, is it just movies that are made outside America that are subject to tariffs? How is this going to work? I was talking to Mike earlier. Is this, do you have a great foreign film and he's going to direct the Department of Commerce to just remake it with Chris Pratt or something? I don't understand how it's going to work.
I don't know.
I think it's okay if you dub the English words into it,
Yeah, again, back to no reading. But I don't think they're talking about subsidies here. So I'm thinking if I go to a movie theater and I pay $12 for a ticket and it's a foreign film, that $12 becomes $24. I think that's how I understand it.
No way.
I mean, I really don't know. Are they going to have custom agents at the theaters?
How do you do a tariff on a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to say, do you have anything to declare, sir, before this Werner Herzog film? No?
No, not really. Well, would it be where? So the way I think it works is the movie theater, they're owned all by the same people. They get the movie, and all the ticket sales go to that movie comp. Oh, so yeah, it would be because they only make the movie theaters themselves only make money on the popcorn and soda.
I have questions.
So it would have to go to the tickets.
What if they want to
it's a foreign
shoot?
film?
What if they want to shoot in Paris?
I mean, what would you do, Ryan? I mean, if you were running this show.
I'd probably do the same type of thing. I remember watching Rumble in the Bronx as a kid, the Jackie Chan movie, and you find out very quickly in that movie that it is not filmed in New York City. It's actually filmed in Vancouver, Canada. So Mr. Chan, he's very nasty, very dishonest.
Yes, he is very dishonest. But a lot of movies are formed and filmed in cities that aren't, like The Last of Us. No,
Right.
Is that it? Is that
That's it.
the one
HBO
with the
show.
guy from Star Wars?
Yes.
Andor? Yeah, okay. So that's filmed in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's Banff. And sure enough, that's where it's filmed. Like Canada looks like a lot of America. Why not? And why are they filming in Canada?
Butte looks like, Bozeman in
I'm
1923.
right. I'm assuming.
When you guys are ready for a serious conversation,
Yeah, well, we'll get you in here, Dave.
you need to ask
This
a
is pretty
question
serious.
about media tax credits, and then we can talk.
Oh
Okay.
yes, that's coming up. That is coming up.
Do we shoot all the foreign shots at Epcot and
No,
Disney?
but there's a reason they go to Toronto and Vancouver and Banff because Canadians are obviously making it worth their while. That's how movies and people go approach city councils and things, and they say, we want to film in your town. Everybody's got to vote on it, say yes or no. So to me, it's nothing about bullshit tariffs and this shit, like this patriotism bullshit. It's about giving somebody what they want to film and bring money to your community. That's
Right.
all it is. So, and Trump's got a problem with it. Well, he's got a big problem in Canada. I mean, they are our bitch. No
So
matter
another
what.
policy that he talked about, when talking about movies, he said he's been doing some very strong research
Yeah.
over the past week, and I think he was just watching movies.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what happened. He watched Escape from Alcatraz or The Rock or Point Blank or any of the great Alcatraz movies.
They're great movies.
They are
Yeah.
great.
great. We need to put prisoners here.
And I did hear a rumor that apparently this is true, is that Escape from Alcatraz, that great old Clint Eastwood movie, aired in Palm Beach over the weekend. So there's a good chance that he saw it and
Oh, yeah.
probably thought about this and decided to go
He's
for it.
banned from the gala for life.
Right.
I think he does want to reopen Alcatraz.
He does.
Yeah, I know he
I
does.
think
They're going to have hearings on it, Dave.
Right.
I think the wastewater and sewer
Right.
may be a small issue.
In 1960, it was $3 million a year to deal
Yeah.
with water, sewer.
It's a great idea. I don't know what you guys are talking. It's a great idea.
You're right. Well, because it shows America and the strength, and what we hate criminals. We're going to put you in the most badass prison.
Well, but this is where we'll put the guy from Silence of the Lambs, right?
Yes,
That's where he
we
goes.
would put him. Yes, but it is.
So what is
nuts.
it, Dave?
But they're
you
going to have
talked
hearings on this. They're going to waste our fucking time and money on this.
right. What is the efficacy
It's
of
never gonna
turning
happen.
Alcatraz into a fully functional prison again?
It's not practical, but it's a very excellent soundbite.
It is.
It's good theater. America
Everything.
loves theater.
Everything he does is good theater.
I've
yep.
said for weeks it's all we have
Tariffs
left.
are on.
is
Tariffs
the
are off.
theater.
Tariffs are on. Jamie Dimon says tariffs are off. Tariffs are off. Elon doesn't like it. Tariffs are off.
Yeah. And Mike and I were talking before the show. There's no price for him to pay for this, right?
No.
Him saying this, there's no
No,
political
can
price
lie.
he can pay.
He can lie as much as he wants.
It's just like Greenland, right? What political
Greenland.
price was he going to pay for saying he's going to take over Greenland? Now, maybe that's a better spot to open a prison. It is an island.
Greenland.
I don't think you could swim off Greenland.
I don't think you could either.
God, no.
You could-
no.
Build Alcatraz on Greenland. Now we're talking.
That's true. You could do that. There's only like 50,000 people living there. Just let
Right.
them live in the towns. You don't even need a prison.
But I was fascinated by those two stories this week about Alcatraz.
But
And we have
installing
Supermax
fear
prison.
and strength. We do. It's just a dumb thing. It's a soundbite. It's like Greenland. It's like Canada. It's like gas is $1.90 in some states.
Right.
What the fuck is that? Are you kidding me? Just not the state you're in. It's other states. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Like you never been to Hawaii. That gas is cheap there.
Yeah.
What?
And I was at Alcatraz in December. I mean, it's in shambles. It's cool, but it is very old and run down, and it is.
Why were you there? I mean, that's a good story.
Yeah, it's Hey Ron, it's
Ron?
well, it's kind of like it's like a national park or a national monument. You take the boat out, you go for a tour. It's fascinating. You have the headphones on.
That'd be cool.
It's a lot of fun, but it's you can tell that it has not been open in 60 years.
Yeah, well, like Montana State Prison. Probably looks a lot like that.
Montana State Prison
That's
is much,
a cool tour.
much nicer than Alcatraz.
I think San Quentin works pretty well
Oh,
for
San
what they
Quentin's
need right
Yeah,
now.
that's,
right.
I
Not
hear
a
that-
great place, but that's what they have.
I hear that's gnarly, but yeah, it is. It's theater. It is. But this one I like, Ryan, though. This Facebook knows exactly when teenage girls delete selfies so it can pitch them beauty ads.
Isn't that sick?
That's for real?
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's all for real.
Yeah. So there was a story this week that came out that Facebook, someone at Facebook was saying, you know, they've designed their algorithm where they know when like a teenage girl will delete selfies off her profile because maybe she's insecure about her looks, and they know that's the time to pepper them with beauty products. And
Do you get a lot of those, Paris? No? No? Oh, good. You don't delete any selfies. That's crazy, though. Is that...
right.
I mean, so I've heard that social media is actually, you know, causing a lot of depression with a lot of people.
It has to be. It's not their fault. It's
You
not
know,
the kids'
it's
fault.
a lot of like, well, you know, people are opening themselves up to get really teased. So I'm gonna tell you a story. When I was young, you know how awkward. You're young.
Right.
You know, I had a fat stomach, long arms, short legs, just weird shit. You know, and you go with all these kids, and you finally get comfortable by 6th grade. You got your friends. Then 7th grade comes along. You're going to all these. You got a lot more kids now in middle school, and then you got to go to PE class. And then they make you shower with the other boys. Now, if that's not awkward. And I got bullied and teased a lot. And I'll tell you what, after showering with the boys, they started calling me horsecock. And it really affected me. Yeah.
Yeah. How dare they?
That was my Thanksgiving prayer.
So I guess my whole upshot with the Facebook thing is there going to be a time in America when we say enough is enough with social media?
Oh, no.
I don't think so
no.
either.
No.
I think it's
don't
too
so.
ingrained in our society.
It's-
We
People are
like
addicted.
AI. Yeah.
We
We're
are past the
addicted to
point
that.
of no return. Yeah, and I think I said it on the show with Riley. If I was president, you know, not only would I be doing cool things like watching movies and then basing
Trump
policy
does.
around the movies I watch, but I would
golf a
pull a
lot.
big lever on Memorial Day that shuts off all social media and say I'm going to flip it back on at Labor Day.
That's not. I don't think it's a bad idea. Well, yeah, she said that couldn't happen though. But
There's this thing
Did
called
you forget the First
there's
Amendment
this
from
thing
law
called
school?
the First Amendment.
Yeah, the little. You know what? That might go away.
Right.
There's a lot of amendments that the orangutan doesn't like.
Yeah. I'm just reading that book now by Sarah Wynne Williamson. I don't know if, she was the Facebook executive that quit. I don't know what ended up happening, but they're going through all these foreign countries and talking about all these issues about censorship and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Well, and
fascinating.
there's some censorship out there. You know, we had a video where we kind of ripped on conservatives, and that got banned and flagged and threatened to close our account down.
I think we have 2 strikes on TikTok.
Yeah,
one more and we're banned
We're
for good.
done. So we got to be really fucking careful.
What happened to free speech?
No R words. No, I know.
All right.
No, you can throw F bombs as much as you want. Apparently,
What, you can't
but
say Republican anymore?
I don't know. No, I don't know what we said.
Yeah, that
Well,
gets
the other one
flagged.
we were just ripping on like. I don't know, P. Navarro, which everybody rips on, and that's all I can see, and it got flagged. I don't understand. Anyway, let's not get off topic here. The military spending, $1 trillion. They're gonna shave all this money from everywhere.
Yep.
For once, they promised $2 trillion. We're down to $150 billion, and it's cost us $135 billion to do this. Oh my God. Okay, but it seems as if the military-industrial complex is doing just fine in these economic turbulent times. I mean. And this is what it's about, is it not? Have we not always had this? And it's a lot of money.
I may have said this the first episode. It's the one thing that pisses me off the most about Doge is you talk about government cuts, you talk about excess spending, you talk about bloated budgets, and not once do they mention the Pentagon.
Yeah, I know. Well, they mentioned it a little bit, saying, "Oh yeah, well we're going to do that," and they're not doing it at all.
They failed how many audits in a row?
Dude,
7 or 8?
It's so they just had another airplane fall off a carrier.
I saw that.
What the fuck is going on?
That's
How's
a $1 billion
that happening?
mistake.
Children might not have toys this Christmas, or as many as they're used to, but Trump's going to have a military parade on his birthday to the tune of $100 million. Again.
Very efficient.
Come on, what's going on?
Very efficient.
It's crazy.
But to Trump's credit, they do have military parades in France and things like that. Bastille Day, and they celebrate it.
True.
Now, if that's what this was really about.
North Korea, they do that. He's changing names of holidays. I mean.
But you don't get any more days off of work. I did see that.
I'm assuming, Dave, nobody really talks about the president much during the session. You got your own shit to deal with.
I would say that's correct.
I'm sure there's a few jokes going around, but that's about it.
generally avoid it.
Yeah,
We really do.
yeah. That's probably not a bad thing. His numbers.
Although, I'll tell you this. After Sine Die, we had some cocktails going around, and we had a nice gathering put on by a group of lobbyists. And I was sitting down.
Oh, your best friends, huh, Dave?
Yep. And I was
Say,
sitting
there's a
down, and there was a group of moderate Republicans at the table, and one rep who I hadn't become acquainted with yet, and that's just the way it works. That sometimes in the Senate you're far away from the House.
Yeah.
And he said to me, before environmentalism, we used to all be Democrats out here, strong Democrats, and I couldn't be a Democrat anymore. But when I ran, he was a freshman, I ran on Medicaid, okay? I ran on improving K-12 education. He sounded very much. And he said to me,
Sounds like a
by the
Democrat."
way,
Yeah.
I'm a no Trumper, okay? And I think that brings up an issue of I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. It gets into the issue of the future of a Democratic Party and how difficult it can be in rural places. And so when we get to the topic of the 9 and what happens and the moderates, you can understand where they're at. But the conversation was that this guy sounded like a Democrat, couldn't be one to win the election,
Right.
but was comfortable being a moderate and working towards some very good things in this state.
So
there's got to be something going on with the messaging then if you can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, you can't win as a Democrat. That just sounds fucking stupid. It really does. Like, okay, I mean, I get it because why? Because they ran a black woman and half this fucking state is racist? I guess. I mean, is that why you can't be a Democrat?
Well, so it kind of bleeds into our next topic, Dave. And I put it here on the sheet that so Trump's poll numbers are obviously in the tank. Yet Democrats seem to be even
Worse.
lower.
I know.
So, what is driving?
And what are Democrats doing right now to make
this
it lower? I don't
hatred
even
for
know.
Democrats? Is this holdover from resentment for Obama when he had 60 votes in the Senate and he didn't do enough, and they're saying, well, I'm done with them? Is this they're not doing enough now? Is this backlash from Kamala? It's fascinating to me that you have Trump, who's historically hated as a president, but Chuck Schumer, even worse.
I think Democrats are going through right now kind of an identity process to figure out where we are,
Okay.
what the priorities are. It can be done. There are some very important issues of unity. I don't know. I don't know what Jopek thinks about that.
I don't think Democrats are doing much. I think that's the problem.
Well, they're not doing anything right now.
Yeah,
They can't, they don't have
nobody
any
hears
power.
them. They don't have AM radio. They can't get out to rural America.
Yeah.
Right.
They've forgotten what their platform says, so they're all splintering, talking about different things. The platform is what unifies Democrats.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I look at the things that, that do help the average American that Democrats have done, like Obamacare, like a strong economy. I mean, jobs numbers, through Biden and everything. Like, the middle class is doing really well. I don't
then
see what
why
the
are
fuck's
their
going-
numbers so
I
low?
don't. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's because Kamala. I'm assuming
I
that
mean-
they just threw her in there without due process, really. And it didn't really matter to me. I didn't care. But there's got to be a reason because I know there was, there's people struggling, always will be, whatever. But a lot of people did very well. And the last 4 years didn't hurt
There
us.
wasn't a very good process because I think President Biden waited too long.
You're right. That's a big
and
deal.
that really
pissed people
set
off.
things upside down. So there wasn't a normal process, and it was no matter what you think of the vice president, Harris, it put her into a very difficult situation.
I
And
think
going
so.
through the normal process, I think what should have happened is that there was sort of a pledge to say I'm going to be a one-term president. I recognize my age and I know my limitations.
And he said that.
And
Yep.
then turning back on that turned things upside down, and there was no return.
Yeah. And
Right.
I think,
When I go too long, can you stop me, Ryan, please?
I think another part, a problem that Kamala had was, yes, to Dave's point, President Biden waited too long before, I think it was July, before he threw her in. He was a very unpopular president. So if you're Kamala Harris, how do you speak out against Joe Biden? How are you?
You can't. You're right.
A man that you're working for and with.
And
So she can't really. She was married to Biden's policies, whether she wanted to be or not. because if she speaks out against them, they're like, well, then why don't you resign?
I think what you say is, I greatly appreciate what the president does. Now we're moving on to phase 2, and here are some things I'm going to do differently.
Dark woke phase
Right?
2.
Here are some things that we've learned that we need to improve on, but we've done a good job, and data has to support it. And how we're moving on, and here's where I'm going to be different. I think what happened when the question was asked, what would you do different? And President Biden, had like a 38% or so, 36%.
Yeah.
And she said nothing.
That hurt.
That was not a
Right,
good
that
thing
hurts.
to say.
That was a
So it
horrible
doesn't mean
soundbite
you have
for
to
her.
disrespect President Biden, but it means that the nation is looking for what's next.
She
And
could
if
have.
you-
She definitely could have
Right.
done more.
And
You're
it's
right.
hard.
That was
So-
that, and saying that she supported giving transgender surgeries in prison to prisoners.
Yeah, that was a long
horrible
time
soundbite.
ago.
It was, but that for 2 weeks, that's all you saw before the election.
It's the middle class who are struggling, who can't hold on to their homes, who we're looking at pay equity and things. There's a lot of issues looking at, health insurance access.
Here we are, almost
There's a-
5 months in, though,
Right.
and shit's still expensive. Interest rates are still high. Housing's very expensive. It's actually getting worse.
Oh, it's getting a lot
you think,
worse,
You think
yeah.
anybody has any buyer's remorse?
Probably.
I saw that
I know a
flag
few
that was
people.
flying in eastern Montana that said Trump 24 and it was upside down. Some farmer was flying it upside down in this field.
Nice.
How east were you?
Well, it was just on social, so
Evergreen.
it was that east.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When we say east, we got to go east of Billings, right?
Hey, we had a little local news too. The rural fire department was called to
I
fire.
did hear about
Yeah,
this.
and they showed up. It was Brad Abel's house. He was just priming his cross and burning it.
I
getting it
saw
ready.
that.
They're gonna have a
Yeah,
big
it's
party. Yeah.
he
Yep.
said it was a lowercase t for time to leave.
Right. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Trump. Whatever.
Yeah.
But Ryan, I mean, the party's poll numbers have always been down. If you actually poll individual people like Bernie or something like that, you'll find that those
Most
poll
popular
numbers
politician in America.
You'll find those poll numbers much higher.
Yeah.
And it's because Bernie has an economic message that resonates with people.
I think that's dead on.
And nobody else is picking up the reins. Like nobody's even mentioning Republican or Democrat, knowing that like a lot of Bernie voters voted for Trump.
Oh, yeah. I
A
think
lot
they did.
of those Bernie people did.
I really think
I don't get it.
I think the oligarchy stuff, the fight to oligarchy stuff, is a huge vein for the Democrats, and they need to take advantage of
They
it.
just
'cause
need to define what that word means.
Yeah,
a little
right.
better.
I think they're looked at as they're genuine. Yeah, both President Trump and Bernie Sanders.
You're right. You're right. They're definitely more
I think that
genuine.
sometimes you look at folks and they're overly handled.
Right.
And you can sense it, that you're trying to say just things that are politically correct, what is more genuine. And I think that really gravitates
I think you hit
with
the nail on
people.
the head.
And so that sometimes you go to the left, the progressive side, or whatever President Trump is. You may not like it, but it's pretty genuine.
It
And I
is.
think people
Oh, yeah.
caught on to that and saw the difference, and
Right.
that's what happened.
I think it's a big problem that Pete Buttigieg faces, what Dave just mentioned. I think a lot of people think he is way too scripted and he's not genuine.
I don't know. I don't get that impression. I'm watching with an interview the other day, and he sounds like a really smart guy. He's got charisma.
He is a smart guy. But I think a lot of people go, oh, he went to Harvard. He went to Harvard just to say
It's like
he can
Quinnell.
go to Harvard. Right,
Yeah, like
exactly.
Quinnell.
Like
Loser.
Steve Quinnell. Speaking of jail,
Yeah. Somebody belongs in
you know,
there.
he's in the military just so he could run for office. But I think that's a good point by Dave. I'm curious to see where the Bernie and AOC Fight the Oligarchy tour goes. I wish I could have gone in
Are
Missoula.
they still doing it?
I don't know if they're doing it. I did see they caught a lot of flack for taking private jets.
No, they're always going to get that.
Which is interesting, and I have a couple
You
responses
can take
to that.
Amtrak, take your
Right,
time.
right, exactly. It's like the
Like Joe Biden did.
the places they were going. When you're going from Missoula, Montana, to Nampa, Idaho, to Provo, Utah, commercial flights become pretty difficult.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess. No.
And my second response to that would be just because you're speaking out, because they always say, "Oh, you're speaking out against capitalism," yet you have an iPhone.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, well, just because I'm participating in the system doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to critique it.
It's like Warren Buffett.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Right.
this guy on TikTok, he's like got this, Trump hat on. And he goes, "Look this here, not in China, made in Bangladesh." You know, and I want to see none of that Chinese crap anymore coming in here. The guy's like, okay, so you're on a Chinese platform, TikTok. You're on a Chinese-made iPhone making this video. Your hat says it was made in Bangladesh, but it was assembled and put together in China because China, like, they send out shit to Bangladesh for finishing it and stuff. And, like, this guy really tore him apart. But you've got a lot of these patriots out there that just don't know. You know, it's just, you know, we don't want this Chinese crap. Okay, then don't buy it.
Right.
You know, I don't know. That's who I see in Walmart. Not that I
willful
go there, but
ignorance.
I drive by the parking lots, and these are not, you know, I mean, a lot of Trump bumper stickers.
Democrats
in that
do
parking
it too, and it's usually when you mention the words Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. That's usually when they clam up.
Pedos, these pedos.
Ed, do you want to spend $30 for a pair of underwear?
Well, that's
Ed doesn't wear underwear. What are you
I'm
kidding?
sorry you don't wear them, but if you did, do you want to spend?
If I did, I would not want to.
If you were to buy a pair for a gift for someone.
Come on, there's always going to be a Ross. I bet Rosses are probably going away.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. We're in for a weird couple of months here figuring this out because I guess the tariffs started now. I guess the containers that are coming in now are loaded with.
But we could win at any time, and the tariffs could go away.
The trade deals that could be done at any minute.
Any minute.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but how far is he going to let it go down? You know, do we need to hit a full-on? And to be honest,
as soon as you want to declare victory, then it's over. You know, we can get moving again.
And
I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is they're going to say we've won the trade war.
It was a great war.
If if the goods you're buying aren't cheap, then the store that has them on the shelves is ripping you off.
They were all afraid of us. We're getting ripped off. We're not getting ripped off anymore. But all the deals are exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, Canada could turn off the power in the dams out of Quebec.
Yeah, they
and
could.
Screw us for a while if they wanted to.
They could.
So they hold a pretty important.
But you know, we can do it
card.
to them too. There's a lot of things we can do to them. It's, you know, it sucks. I mean, I wanted to ask Dave. I forgot. I was going to ask you something. God damn it, forgot.
Ask Mike. He'll know
Why
the
are
answer.
we here? What are we talking
right.
about?
He'll
I
know
don't
the answer.
remember.
Who am I? What have I done with my life?
That's it. One thing is, you know, I've criticized the left and thinking their strategy is pretty bad sometimes. And one of them is like saying that, you know, these Trump voters are cults. I'm like, I don't think that's getting you anywhere. I really don't. I think that's bad advertising. It's bad this, bad that. Then I started watching Netflix documentaries about cults. I'm like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Because I know some of these people, and they're very educated and very smart. You know, there's some examples. From 2016 to about 3 months ago, MAGA hate electric cars.
They did.
All the memes and the stories about how they're blowing up, they're starting on fire, they're killing people, all this, like they're the most horrible thing in the world. Well, in the last 3 months now, they're the best thing in the world. I mean, and these people that hated electric cars.
Well, you can't roll coal on electric cars anymore?
I know.
It's very difficult.
Well, they must be making a way to do it because they're awful popular among the MAGA people now.
They are.
You know, from 2016 until a few months ago, MAGA hate NFL.
Yep.
You know, boycott that. They're way too woke.
Travis Kelce,
Now
Taylor
the president
Swift.
goes, and what, that kicker from Kansas is super MAGA.
Oh, Harrison Buckner,
Some people started loving the NFL again. All you got to do is throw a little racism in there, and I guess, you know, a little sexism.
little misogynistic,
and that's good,
yeah.
The left, Antifa, BLM, George Soros paid actors to storm the Capitol, all that stuff is still true to these people, even though they all got pardons.
Yeah.
But this cult still believes that,
So
that
why
this
wouldn't?
happened.
Here's a question for Dave and Mike. You know, there's this thought on the right that all these protesters are paid by George Soros or whoever. Why wouldn't you go undercover, get a check from George Soros, and then expose the whole thing?
Because they don't have to prove a goddamn thing.
Right? Why wouldn't you
Well,
be
that's
like,
what
yep, I want to join up with Antifa, and the first check that came in, you'd be right on Fox News and say, see, here's the proof.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because he doesn't. They don't need it. They have never needed proof for anything. Trump has
It's
never.
all done in crypto.
Yeah, it's all done in crypto.
Untraceable.
I mean, his grocery prices have fallen all over the place. They have not at all. They've gotten more expensive, and that is a
I'll
fact.
tell you what hasn't fallen, the price of wings.
No, God, no, that's not gonna.
Jesus.
Gas is down to
Are they still
$1.90.
$1?
Here's what he says. Today they are. He says gas is down to $1.90
They
a
look
gallon
good. They
in
some
most
just went
states.
by.
And it's like, well, what states is gas down? It's not. And, you know, like
I mean, I think likely what happened is he saw a photo of an old picture of gas prices and thought it was real.
he got that
It
information
was
from
in that
Navarro.
Alcatraz movie.
Yeah.
I mean, taking over Canada and Greenland, these are weird things that you just don't accept. But now the cultists are saying, "Oh, this is a great idea." It's fucking impossible.
Like we said, there's no political price to pay.
All
so
the
do whatever you
pardonings,
want.
reopening Alcatraz. PBS and NPR now are state-run media, just like Korea has, North Korea.
Well, gas is coming down. I mean, production is lower, gas is coming down.
It is.
Yeah,
We
you
don't
know,
need as much. People
but
aren't
not for the
traveling as
reasons
much.
that you think.
You're
it
right.
is.
You know,
321 I bought today.
Yep,
so it doesn't seem
321.
like it's
they're
really
gonna
coming down.
they're gonna defund NPR and PBS, but
They
give
are.
billions of dollars to Elon Musk for SpaceX and Space Force, which is still fucking ridiculous to me. So we have an Air Force. I think that was good enough. And these guys are all against less government, are all about less government, less spending. Well, creating Air Force or Space Force costs fucking hundreds of millions of dollars, apparently.
Well, but
I
this
have
is-
no idea why. All
They have,
new
they have a
uniforms.
great theme song. I mean, if you ever heard this.
No.
Oh, yeah. Listen to all their military theme songs. They got a good one.
Space Force has a theme song.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is late-stage
Jesus
capitalism.
Christ.
This is when the billionaires get a hold of government and they strip it for parts. That's why you're seeing NPR and PBS defunded, where SpaceX and Tesla and Starlink
God.
get a blank check.
Now, here's the one that really, this does irk me, and it's irking a lot of people. He's going to host a private dinner later this month for the top buyers of his meme coin.
Oh,
which
it's your
is
crypto,
fucking
Jopek.
insane.
Yeah,
It's it's made him the world's newest crypto billionaire.
sure.
His top 25 coin buyers will get a VIP White House tour. What? We're for sale, right?
Everything is transactional.
Everything.
everything.
I mean, I cannot imagine that in my lifetime I ever see a president selling things, hawking watches, crypto coins, this shit while in office, and totally getting away with it, and
Right.
totally being normal and totally cool with them, and it's all because of his authenticity.
And it's,
right?
you know,
He relates to the regular guy. Puts on a baseball hat and fuck yeah, look at him. He's a
Yeah.
redneck, I guess.
I
And
ha-
shits on a gold toilet.
I have a lot of friends that are into crypto, and I wish them well. I hope they get very rich.
I
But
hope they got in 6 years ago.
that's my whole thing. Is maybe I don't understand it. I don't want to take my real money, convert it into fake money, on the hopes of converting it back into more real money. That makes me nervous.
That's scary.
Also,
Very
it
scary.
appears to be the whole point of crypto appears to be you get in at X time, and then you get out before Y,
Yeah.
and leave this poor sap holding the bag.
Well, it's like the stock market. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
kinda.
yeah, that was just for demonstrative purposes. It is kind of like the stock market, but to push back on
But
that,
the stock market's like liquid.
is
It's
much more
stuff.
regulated.
It's regulated. Crypto's not regulated at all.
not really.
And can you?
I was
don't
just
know
listening
how.
to the radio on the way over, and they were talking about Warren Buffett. And if you invested $100 with him in 1965,
Oh, fuck.
you'd have 2.8 million bucks today.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to invest anything else.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
$100.
That makes me sick. Oh my god. I didn't know who he was at 19. Well, I wasn't born yet. That's why.
But this Trump thing is a standard pump and dump crypto scheme. You say the top 25 buyers are the price is going to shoot. Right when it gets to the top or near the top, Trump and all his cronies are going to sell, and then they're going to pull the rug out, and all the.
That's why they need to tell the rest of us when they're lifting the tariffs.
Right.
So we can get in on that.
Right.
I want to get in
action.
on that. Marjorie Taylor Greene went from like a net worth of not much to a lot
Yeah.
in that week of the tariff turmoil, I mean,
Did you hear they're trying
and
to?
she said, I just buy when it's right. I'm smart. That's why.
Did you hear
Oh
they're
my
trying
God.
to talk her out of running for Senate?
Yes.
She wants to run for Senate in Georgia, and they are
Yes,
in
yes.
panic mode.
Of course,
So,
because
like,
she's breaking.
We had that drooling idiot Herschel Walker last time.
my
He got waxed,
God.
and now we're gonna
He
have.
didn't lose by that much.
They're gonna have Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh man.
Dude.
And you had Kelly Loeffler, the woman who literally owns the New York Stock
Okay, so
Exchange.
what's this infatuation with offensive people that the Republicans and America has?
I think it's all theater.
Yeah, it's all later.
People love the theater of it.
People really love
I mean,
theater.
come on,
Yeah.
but how come the Democrats don't have a remember that guy
We
from
do.
New York?
He's sitting right here.
Well, okay, we got Dave. They got Dave Fern. He's a wild card. But like, we don't have a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Don't
Not
have
really.
a fucking Matt Gaetz. Don't have these in-your-face asshole people. Because these people are fucking assholes.
Yeah, they're
and
jerks.
to everybody they're around.
You want the reason?
Yes.
You really want the reason?
Why Democrats don't have one?
We're too earnest.
Oh, okay.
That's the obvious. But that's not working anymore. You know?
That doesn't necessarily matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, it should matter, but No, you want in-your-face people that just degrade everybody and everything around them, and that's what the American brand is.
I mean, really, we love theater. I mean, look at the theater that Schweitzer provided us with his
His was
branding,
great.
iron.
It was
Right.
great.
And you compare that to the theater that Gianforte did with his red Sharpie on the styrofoam cup. I mean, the theater is not the same.
No, God, no. No, he is boring humdrum.
He really
Gianforte
is.
is just a
He
fucking
really is
stiff.
boring.
He's a stiff. Why is he our fucking governor?
I wish he was more like Marjorie Taylor Greene in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you might as well be. You
Right.
know, he thinks the world is 6,000 years old. We fucking voted for this guy. I just, it blows my mind. Why don't we have a creationalist museum here?
Well, the question is why, if what you say is true, then why did only 39% vote for his opponent?
Right. I don't know.
That's
I
the
don't
big
know.
question.
I mean, people love him. Like we have a lot of Christian nationalists in Montana. There's no denying it. There's a lot in the Flathead. And just call it what it is.
But
They're
enough to
racist.
swing an election?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I mean,
Here, yeah, I think so. I do think so, Montana. There's a lot. Dude, there's still people with Axe Max signs out there. You know,
yeah.
I mean, people are very proud of their statements they make. You know, it's just the whole deal is kind of screwed up.
I saw one in Libby the other day when I was there a few weeks ago. It just said, "Fuck Mike Cooney." And I was like, boy, I haven't thought of that
You
name
haven't
in a
thought of that guy
while.
in a while,
Oh, my
yeah.
God, that sign's been up there
And I'm like,
forever.
what's Mike Cooney do to make this guy mad?
Most people don't even know who Mike
I
Cooney
know.
is anymore.
He was that drummer in the jazz band.
So I was like,
so, yeah.
I remember him playing the drums on his
I saw
ads.
that ad. I'm like, he's done. Why is he not fucking shooting ducks or something right now? He's playing a jazz drum. Like, that's not going to win.
Well,
you
but I
know?
think that goes back to Dave's point. If the Democrats are out there shooting ducks or drinking beer, people go, "Oh, it's so
that's fake.
scripted. It's
That's-
so
yeah, it's
fake."
fake.
So
They
it's
don't
it's
drink
really
beer.
a catch-22 where they can't win.
I don't know. Schweitzer lost his first time around.
Yeah.
He lost. Gianforte lost his first race.
That's true.
did.
I wouldn't count Bussy out.
I'm not.
Just
I'm
because
definitely
you
not
lost
counting
the
him
one
out.
race. I mean, it takes people a while to come to terms with seeing names on the ballot and
Right.
what that all means.
Well, I think
Yeah.
in Montana, and Ryan knows this, that it's going to take a lot of time. It's really hard to meet everybody and know all these people. And now he's got his social media. He's got a lot of followers. It's really so. I mean, and there is nobody else.
Yeah.
I can't like we interviewed Jesse Laszlovich last week, and he is a great person.
Yeah, he'd be
I mean,
great.
he is awesome. I wouldn't care what he ran for. I would support it. You
Sure.
know? I would.
Oh,
I
he
really
just
would.
needs to get some of that Schweitzer retail politics. I mean, if Brian walked in here, he'd meet everybody behind the bar, then he'd be in the kitchen shaking hands with everybody, then he'd be back out and do a shot of whiskey.
Yeah,
He'd
And
be,
TJ would probably stab him.
right. He would.
But that doesn't
Who the fuck
come
are you?
natural for a lot of people.
That doesn't come
That's a
natural
real-
for people,
That's a
but,
real talent. It's retail politics is not necessarily as easy as one would think. It takes time to cultivate it.
Well, a lot of
I-
people don't have the personality, point blank. They just
Right.
don't. I mean, some people just don't, and
Right.
it is who you are. But some people don't need it either.
Not everyone can be
But
Brad
it's a
Abel.
rarity. It's a rarity when you don't need it. For most, it's an unnatural way to be.
Well, how
This
the
whole
hell did half the
political
Republicans
game
in
is
Montana
quite-
get elected then? Because they have no personality. A lot of these people.
Well, apathy, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's the default party.
It's
Right.
a default party. It is, and what did we? Did that bill pass to make make voting as an independent harder?
No, it's easier now.
Oh, what?
It's
What
easy.
happened?
It's easier.
Wait all right, this I don't
It
even
got,
have on the
it
list.
got amended, so
I
I,
forgot
believe
all
it's
about
now
it.
takes 4% rather than 5%.
There we go.
And,
But it used to be 3%.
No, it used to be much more than that.
Used
Oh,
to be
really?
5?
It was a percentage of the number of votes
Of the
that
number
you
of voters.
received, and it is, as far as I know, at first it was pretty hostile to independents, and the reason
Yes.
that was is that the sponsor had a fairly close race in Billings. I think this is the reason. With an independent, so the independent got 45% of the vote, which is almost a victory, right?
Yeah.
And I think
That scared 'em.
And I like the, I like this sponsor a lot. It's not because, but I was
Who was the sponsor?
I was ready to go. I was ready to go battle with this if it actually ended up being the way it was, because I'm a naive believer that independents could play an important role in politics and do so in certain states, but not Montana.
Oh,
and I'm spacing out her name, but
Why not Montana?
Oh, I think it's going to be Montana. I mean,
I
you
think it
look
would
at
be
the younger
Montana.
generation. Younger generation
We're a freedom
is
kind of
not
state.
affiliating themselves with the Democratic Party
Or
or the
Republican.
Republican Party. They're doing
Right.
their own thing.
I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I have a very hard time supporting either party. A very hard time.
But
Me too.
that's very different than saying that an independent is going to run and win.
Who's the woman that ran for? God, she was on the podcast.
What's
my
her
God.
name?
God,
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. She's a really pretty blonde lady with kids, and she's fairly young. She ran as an independent, and she got close. She raised a hell of a lot of money. Come on, what'd she run for?
I don't believe you.
No idea.
Bullshit. Yes,
Public
you do.
Service Commission,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Service,
public
PSC.
service.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right.
Lina,
Yes.
right, or something.
Yeah, Dave, you spoke like right after she did at that event at the Rebecca Farms.
Yes.
Yeah, not Rebecca Farms.
Yes.
The other
she,
thing place.
she ran a good race,
Clydesdale.
and she ran as an independent.
And I heard she was part of the reason that they wanted this bill to pass too, because she did so well.
Oh, Buchanan, too. You know, I mean, Buchanan in the East running with that congressional seat.
Yeah. So
And I would say Buchanan was a true independent with bits of Republicanism and bits of Democrat politics. You know, it wasn't like I'm really a Democrat. I'm running as an independent, or when I become running for president, I'll come back to being a Democrat. There are different reasons to run as an independent, and one
Right.
could be is I don't need a party.
Yeah.
well, and that I think would resonate, because it does seem that neither party's that popular. They're not.
Correct.
And the independent doesn't really have any polls on independence.
I'll be very cynical, but be myself.
Really,
and
you?
say that the two parties have one thing in common: they have a business plan and they make a lot of money.
Yes.
And they don't want competition.
And
Yeah.
that is exactly why we have a two-party system. There's no doubt in my mind. I think everybody does know that. Well,
Thank
it's
you, Amy.
about time. Thank you, sweetie. Did you like my joke earlier?
I think
She
that's a
hates
good
that one.
answer to any, Dave, as my question about why the Democrats' numbers are so low, given Trump's poll numbers. I think people think it's both parties operate as a business, and all they really care about is making money.
And I don't think that's
Power.
they care about. I think there's many folks elected who care a great deal. I'm just saying, right now we don't have a parliamentary system. We really have two viable
Yeah.
parties. And what we learned when you get to talking about the 9 or whatever, what we learned is sometimes there's not very much tolerance for bad behavior. And you could look at what the
Jason
Republican
Ellsworth.
Senate was this year and say that's a real opportunity to be diverse, or you could look at it and say that's a real barrier. And I think leadership on our side thought it was a barrier rather than an opportunity.
Well, let's get into that. Let's make
Yeah,
that our
number
first
3
Montana
right here,
talk.
yeah.
Let's start with that one. Because we know Don K. censured 9 Republicans, asked the public not to address them as Republicans, said that Don KKK. They said that they wouldn't fund any of their campaigns. They basically kicked them out of the party.
These
Said,
are the nasty 9.
The Nasty Nine.
Nasty Nine.
So, Dave, why don't you give us a little background on that, how it came about, and, my thought was these people had to work for the constituents. There was a really good letter in all the papers in Montana that I believe one of the 9 wrote, and they all signed on to, and Medicaid had a lot to do with it, and I think because they would probably lose the next election if they voted, the way that the Republicans wanted to vote. That's my assumption. Where did it come from? Where did it start? And what did it do to the session this year?
I think your analysis of those Republicans in question, except maybe for Senator Ellsworth, and that's a separate
He's
situation.
a separate animal. He can't come back.
That's a separate situation. But for the folks who especially ran in primaries, I know several that I served with in the House who ran in primaries and ran against far-right folks and won.
Yeah.
So you talk about Senator Hunter from Glasgow. He ran against the Attorney General's mom.
Oh, yeah.
And won by a wide margin. And
Mrs. Knutson.
And he worked.
Didn't she win something, though?
He worked.
I don't know,
She was
yeah.
she was formerly. I served with her formerly, and I was on tax committee with her.
Oh, yeah,
But
okay.
then she ran for the Senate. So he
yeah,
worked
yeah.
very hard. He's an EMT in Glasgow, beloved character, moderate, campaigned everywhere. Campaigned in Sydney and lost in Sydney, but kept his losses limited. And so I think that people sometimes, we do get down to retail politics. And he did. Many of these moderates did campaign on Medicaid, K-12 education.
Because a lot of them are rural.
Well, the rural hospitals need Medicaid to survive.
Without question.
Right. And so that connection
But that's a
worked.
handout. They should die.
Whatever it is, it's really essential for rural communities, and it worked well. And you know what? From day one, what caused the lack of communications or the breakaway
Within the Republican Party.
within the Republican. But when we think about the House, we have moderates. We have a Solutions Caucus in the House.
Oh, yeah.
We have moderates in the House. We've had moderates in the House. We will continue to, and they're quite independent too.
Yeah.
And
I mean, but that's nothing new. I mean, we've had the log cabin Republicans back in my day. You
Were
had
those
the
the gay ones?
constitutional.
Yes.
Yeah.
They weren't quite there, but that kind of solutions-oriented stuff is happening all the time. I mean, there was 20 Republicans in the House, the Lou Jones Republicans, that were kind of moderates. And the difference between the House and the Senate really was their leadership. It's the difference between Regier and Lear. Don't overlook that difference because...
Well, Regier was in a little trouble coming to the end of the session, too. Which is weird to me. Like, it just seems weird because...
Can you respond to your email yet?
Oh, fuck, no.
when I ran, the thought was okay, we've got one winnable Senate district here in the Flathead, and you're going to be the one vote. You're going to be you're going to get Medicaid through and all this kind of stuff. And the reality is that the only time I had the one vote was 231 at times because I dealt with it 4 or 5 times. There was a couple times I was the one vote. But most of the time, no, I was not the one vote. we had, you heard 27-23 a lot. Sometimes it was more than that. Right? And there was a fair amount of resentment. But again, I look at it as it wasn't. You can look back at Democrat history maybe from the 80s, but there was a time where we had a lot of folks in the legislature who were Democrats, and there was that sort of split as well. And I'm told in the 80s we faced that kind of problem, and it's a challenge for leadership.
Yeah, it's a chance for leadership, and I think Regier had a lot to do with it. I think he actually blew up the Senate by being so overhanded, putting people on the wrong committees and that kind of stuff, and just starting things off on the wrong foot. Lear didn't do that, and he didn't have those troubles. Right. And all that same stuff.
It seemed like they worked together.
The
House worked together more. Their caucus worked together and figured things out.
So how do you think it's going to work?
And Regier just didn't give a shit what people are saying.
Where you have a guy who's I served with for 4 terms in the House. He served on business labor for 4 terms. You could say he has expertise and comfort there, and that's where you want him. And then they don't put him there.
Yep.
Yeah,
or they put him on some nothing committee. You think that would piss someone off?
It should.
Yeah.
It's insulting.
Oh, back in 2007, I remember my seatmate, George Grossbeck, bless his heart, he's dead now, but they didn't put him on a Class A committee. He had no committee in the morning. And so he's like going golfing all day. And it was like, George, what are you doing? I just got back from the golf course. I went with my buddy from the Northwestern people,
Real Bill Roberts.
But this is serious stuff because this is leadership.
Well,
Whether it's in business or whether it's politics. And
but you think Regier's going to he won't be Senate president next time. There's no way.
I don't know. Just depends on the votes.
I think he did blow it up. I think he pissed off a lot of. This is where the door's open for independents because Republicans are now mad. You got a guy in leadership that it's his way or the highway. He's fucking up on these committee appointments and all this shit. I would think the party would say, okay, we can't. This guy is a juvenile. We cannot have this.
Don't assume anything.
Yeah.
Right. No. Were you quoted in the New York Times when they covered this story?
No.
Oh, you weren't.
No.
They missed
we should
out.
talk about Democratic leadership. I mean, Dave's been up in the Senate long enough to get in leadership. You got Laura Smith up in the Senate. On the House side, you're hearing Carlin's name coming up, and this Matthews kid from Bozeman, or he's not a kid anymore.
Right.
Laura and Carlin are folks I know real well, and super smart.
Well, it doesn't matter. They're Democrats.
No, they have bipartisan.
Well, they both voted against 528. I'm very familiar with their votes on that.
Yeah, you are. That's coming up. Before that, though, let's talk about income tax. 3rd session in a row we've passed an income tax break. This one's the biggest. And from my understanding, it's only helping the top 1%. I don't see myself getting any help.
That's not true, but but I can say what the problems are with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell us what, because say if a guy's earning about 140 grand, is he going to pay as much as he did the last time?
Wait, is that what you're paying the pizza guys in the back?
Hell yeah, I'm worried about my employees. Yeah.
Yeah.
About my wing maker. He gets all the money.
I think the thing to understand is that every time you bring the top marginal rate down, it's very expensive. And so, for example,
Of course. So my property taxes go up.
well, no, that's another
Well,
issue. I
okay.
don't want to commingle them necessarily.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I'll do that for you.
Yeah.
But I did have a bill, 546, that at least made it over to the House side. That was a middle tax, income tax relief.
We talked about this last November.
And it worked a little bit differently. But for example, a couple filing jointly, making $100,000, $30,000 would be the standard deduction, $70,000 taxable, would have seen about a $930 reduction in liability. That was by far, I don't know if generosity is the word, but the most impactful for that middle class couple. I know 100,000 sounds like a lot. It would have worked just the same at 110,000. But we tried to.
It's not a whole lot in Montana anymore. It's just not, though.
No, I know. And so what I think you're getting at is that if you're trying to say to the world, we are now going from a 5.9 top marginal rate, and originally it was going to be a 4.9, it's being said to attract people and build business. And I guess I would challenge that premise. So we did see a bill that was passed that went to will go to 5.4%, I think. It's at $270 million per year. So the bill I had was it sounds cheap, $167 million a year. But that $100 million is a really big deal when we get down to sustainability. When we start looking at beyond 2027, when we look out to 2029 and the obligations we have. So that's, I'm not anti people making a lot of money, but I'm just saying.
What kind of Democrat are you?
I'm
Right.
a bad one.
Not a very
I'll
good
admit.
one, yeah.
But I think that having a sustainable revenue stream is very important looking forward.
Well, especially when, I'm going to say it again, we don't have a sales tax. It's big news.
we have a select sales tax.
Well, we need to, here's the deal. If you're giving away money to the top earners, which that's exactly what Republicans do in every state in the country, it's their
That's what
MO.
they're there for. Yeah.
That's what they're there for. And they're winning, You have Warren Buffett, millionaires out there saying, yeah, they need to be taxed more. But, of course, they're lunatics. But where are they getting the money to give these tax breaks, these income tax breaks?
It's just out of the general fund money. That's all it is. But
So it's coming out of the general fund.
Judy Martz had to call 2 special sessions, let's remember, because they ran into monetary problems when they started monkeying around with this kind of stuff. And she had to call 2 special sessions to try to get those ironed out. Was that 2003, 2004, somewhere around there?
That was a wild time.
In my world, what I would have done is I would have kept the income tax just where it is. I would have concentrated on property tax issues because that's what people are talking about. And then I would have had a more sustainable budget moving forward.
Okay.
That's what I would have done. If not, my default was going at the $167 million process rather than 270, and targeting it and looking at discretionary money. How do people spend that money? So I was very interested in getting money into the hands of people who put that money back into their community.
Well, that would be
right.
nice.
So one of the things that happens is that, yes, if you give a tax break to wealthy people, some of it will get back into it, but a lot of it won't. And so part of what you look at tax policy is, what's your strategic goal of it? Where do you want to go with it? And I think that's kind of what we're missing. I hope that, I finally got on the Revenue Interim Committee for tax, which is like I've tried 4 times. So I'm going to be pushing that moving forward about what are our goals, what are we going to do moving forward.
But the ongoing revenue is an issue for Montana, and nobody's really talking about
No.
that. The problem usually starts a couple, 3 years later. I mean, the tax cuts are great. I'm going to take every one of that I get. But one
Right.
of the problems is that it's $275 million, like Dave was saying. What they could have done is they could have cut the taxes on Social Security, $23 million.
I can't even believe
they
they
could have
taxed
cut
Social
the
Security.
taxes on the tips your bartenders are making,
Right.
but they chose to go after this big money thing.
So who are the winners and losers of the income
I mean,
tax?
once that was chosen, we felt like then we have to react to it because that was kind of a done deal. I mean, I was pleased that I could get my bill through the Senate, pretty good votes, but I didn't really have any realistic expectations that I was going to get through the House because we knew that one
House is
form of the
cray.
governor's bill was going to make it.
Yeah.
The only good thing is, I mean, there are good things in that it did stretch the lower rate farther to the right, I guess, and it did increase the earned income tax credit. So that's good. That's
Okay,
fine.
that's good.
But it's a high price to pay
Yeah.
to do it. That's my criticism.
I think the ongoing revenue problems are going to be, we're going to see that over the course of the next month as the line item veto pen comes out. And
Okay.
they're
It's
already coming out.
It's
It's already
already
there.
coming
Really?
out, and they're seeing the same thing in Helena, that the legislature is seeing that the ongoing revenue is going to become a problem. We're going to have to cut some stuff,
Yeah.
and you'll see some of the deals and that kind of stuff be
But are
just
they the
money
slush
be
funds
chopped out.
making money off of federal money, the interest, and
ARPA,
it seems like they're flush with
ARPA,
money.
ARPA slush fund.
ARPA
Yep.
slush fund. I mean, it seems like they're raking it in. They always brag about how much they got. But real quick, are there any winners and losers of this income tax bill? Like, who are the winners? Who are the losers? Do we know?
Well,
Or we gotta wait till we get our taxes.
No, I think the winners are probably
BNSF.
your top decile of
Town
income, and I think the winners are honestly the folks very low income who will get more earned income tax credit. I think the middle. I think you can quote me on this. The middle class is screwed.
All right.
Yeah. Huh.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and I think, Dave, you kind of heard about this. This is our segue into our next one. I reposted something from Eric Nyland and pissed off some lobbyists. I got some very mean texts from some Democrats and some lobbyists and stuff. And I said, hey, man, I'm just starting a debate.
They wanted to
Why are you
beat
being so
Nyland.
mean?
And I said, dude, I'm just trying to start a debate. It looks like it's working. And then I got laid into more, and I go, listen, motherfucker, I'm paying $42,000 a year in property tax. I want to know why.
You're about to pay more.
Okay, there we go.
I don't
You
know.
start.
What's the
Now,
appra-
we're going to let
what's
Mike
his
start,
appraisal?
Dave. We're letting Mike start on this. Mike's going to start. He's going to tell us what he knows, and then, Dave, you're going to tell us why he's wrong.
No, I doubt I'll do that.
Well,
Bill.
we'll see. So, your take, Mike, on, and what we got was, we got 528, which is, they threw in some amendments from 231, and then they passed 528. Am I right?
No, that's not right.
528 was the Conservative Freedom
528.
Caucus burn bill.
The burn bill. That's the
Yeah,
one that passed.
Yeah, where they basically said that all that money that you gave to the state back in 2023, we want back. And you have to
Wait,
remember
who gave
what
it to the state?
Well, you did as
The
a property
taxpayer,
taxpayer.
yeah.
And who's we want it back?
Well, the homeowner.
Yeah, okay, so I want it back.
You
Yes,
want it
and I
back.
do.
Yeah,
I do.
Exactly.
I think I'm
And
paying
so
way
you
too
have
much
to
money.
remember what we've been talking about over this time.
That's hard.
Is this disastrous dereliction of duty that the supermajority Republicans did in 2023,
Right.
where they didn't lower the property tax rate to neutralize the rate. And so that built into this next session that we had to kind of go back and fix it again. And so now you had two reappraisal cycles that hitting people, the one that was in the past and the one that's coming up in June. And so, the Republicans up there, you had 100 Republicans last time. They forgot to do it in 23. Now you got 90 Republicans up there this time, 60 Democrats. The Republicans still can't figure out how to do it. They're all splintered all over the place.
Yeah.
Almost every single one of the Flathead Republicans voted against this one that neutralizes back to the 2023 levels to give you all your money back. And almost every Democrat voted for that bill, with the exception of some Missoula Democrats and Helena and a Gallatin Democrat.
Right, and I remember I remember that.
Yep. And so, we had a pretty simple. People want to say we had a complicated property tax system. We did not. We had a very simple property tax system: appraisals, tax rates, levies. Pretty simple. 3 different things. Now we have one of the most complicated property tax systems in the state because of what the Republican legislators really started pushing. And you have to remember, they started pushing this thing in the governor's task force where they got all those lobbyists and all these, out-of-state consultants and put a couple of Democrats like Dave on there and came up with this plan. And they came up with this plan that wasn't going to touch the 2023 reappraisal. It was just going to move forward, saying, well, you don't owe any taxes moving forward. That's what the 1.1 rate is. It says you don't move any forward. The only way you get your money back is if you go to 0.76. And so what they ended up doing is they said, well, we'll give you some of your money back. We'll give you some of your money back up to $400,000 of your home value, but the rest of it we're keeping. We're baking that into the cake. And if you live in the Whitefish area, you don't have to pay extra until you get over $1.5 million. And then we got a new property tax rate, 2.2, that we're going to start taxing you. First year, we're still in the first year. And so in the first year out of that, remember, they raised the taxable value in Montana for all the homes by $1.4 billion of taxable value. The first year under this property tax bill that the Republicans are pushing, Galt and Jones, they're only giving you back $450 million of that taxable value.
That's a small billion.
That's a small percentage. They have baked in over $100 million in property tax collections over time. And you're not going to see this on the first year because you're going to get a little bit of sugar high the first year because they're going to give you $400 and give
Wasn't
you
it 675 last year?
Well,
It was,
deflation and that kind of stuff. And so you're not going to notice it. You're going to get a little sugar high. You're going to think, oh, I did pretty good. I got a few $100 on rate cuts and $400 on this credit, and I did okay. Well,
my taxes
after
might go
the
up
sugar high,
$1,000.
everybody knows what happens after the sugar high. You end up with a little bit of
There's the
headache,
crash,
and that's what's
yeah.
coming down
Yeah,
our
the
way.
crash is coming.
Is when you actually have to apply, and some people auto qualify, but the people who don't qualify, the non-qualifiers, and the people who live in the urban areas are the people who are now picking up that $100 million excess. While the rural people got 100% relief, the urban people got minute relief. And
So this is your Missoulas, your Bozeman.
This is Missoula's, Bozeman. Anybody who lives in a place where it's growing fast. You know, it could be Columbia Falls. It could be Creston. You're going to see a little bit of relief coming up, and then the sugar high is going to end. You're going to have to be stuck with the headaches. And if you have two houses, you got a headache. If you got a house in grandma's name, you got a headache. If you just purchased into a house and you haven't lived there for certain much, you got a headache. And what that headache is a very steep property tax increase that's coming your way. And it's going to hit you. I'm sorry, my friend. You're going to have to sell more wings to make up that deficit.
Oh, man.
No, I got to sell more of everything, I guess. Maybe get into some other businesses.
Right, exactly.
A lot of bar owners do that stuff to make ends meet. You know,
but
why
you have
not?
to remember, 100 Republicans last time, 90 Republicans this time.
Yeah.
There was some better stuff that happened this time with those 60 extra Democrats up there. And the only solution I can come up with is we got to send 70 Democrats up there next cycle to counter some of this nonsense, because what that bull that the Republicans were pushing last session and this session is going to hurt regular people. And you can see the Freedom Caucus is mad as hell about it.
Really?
And I know the Democrats are taking victory laps about it, but it's a huge mistake, because when those appraisals hit June of next year and you didn't qualify, you're going to be pig biting mad.
Well, I've been told my taxes could go from $5,800 to $7,000, easy or more. That's what I've been told. I could get a $400 rebate, so they're not going to go up that much. But even if my property taxes, just on my house alone, go up, $700 or $800, that's going to piss me off. I mean, that's going to make me still bitch to all our legislators why they won't bring up a fucking sales tax. I know it's regressive. I know it won't do anything. But you know what? Come on. I mean, like, Dave, what do you think I spent on this building right here in property taxes? Just take a wild guess.
$22,000.
God damn it. Because I've said it before. You just ruined it. I wanted to see if you knew.
That's a lot of wings.
That's a lot of
5
money.
orders of wings.
Are you asking for my perspective on this?
No, now I want your perspective, because he ruined the question I gave you. But yeah, I want, because Mike's been the doomsday guy with this, and you and a few other people have been like, no, this is a good thing. And I'll tell you what, on its face, I loved it when Dave's like, no, we're going to tax the second homeowners, we're going to tax the Airbnbs, and we're going to tax larger businesses. And I did see during the hearing for 528, The Chamber of Commerce came out against it. Timber came out against it. Gas came out against it. Oil. All the businesses. There's 15 opponents to this bill, and they're all big business.
I guess to be diplomatic, 528 had no chance of passing.
Is that the one that passed? What's the one that passed?
528 had zero chance of passing, so we were going to work pragmatically with what we could do.
Okay.
And so what could be done?
I mean, Dave voted for 528. He was a Spirit 76 guy.
Right. No, I know he voted. I saw he voted for it. Well, God damn it! What's the one that ended up passing? The one we're talking about?
The bill we're talking about is basically 231.
231.
That was amended and folded into House Bill 542. And that's the bill that
that's what we got.
Right now, that's what we have, based on whether the governor will sign it, and I think he probably will sign it.
It's already been transmitted to him.
So I think that when we go back to my participation in the task force, what I thought was an intriguing data point, and I still do, and we can argue about this or kind of figure out what do we want to do with it, is that about 22% of the value of residential properties in the state are not full-time residents. And again, the question is that a barrier?
22%, you said?
22%.
It's 40 in our town, so I can see.
I'm talking about the state.
But statewide, yeah. No, that makes sense.
And the question is that an opportunity or a barrier? And either side is right. I'm not, I'm a kind of a kumbaya guy.
Good old moderate Dave.
You know, I will, but I think that what we came to, okay, so Jones brings this bill forward, or this idea forward, Representative Jones.
Lou.
I served on the subcommittee with him on tax fairness. And the question is how much do I challenge him on it? What do I do with it? That sort of thing. And I sort of, I'm in a better position now to challenge certain things because I think the legislature is a lot about relationships.
Yeah.
And gaining confidence and trust with people in what you can push forward and what you can. The other thing is that perhaps I would have been helpful if I was on the Revenue Interim Committee in the past, but I was never assigned to that. I'm there now. I passed a bill basically to say, okay, we get this revenue neutral information from the Department of Revenue. What should we do with it? And I think that's what was kind of lacking, is that, okay, we get 0.76, and then it just sort of stops. What's the policy we're going to move forward with it, and how are we going to continually mitigate moving forward? So, I mean, I think that what we accomplished was what was politically possible. That's what I'm saying.
So big businesses are going to pay a little more.
Big businesses.
Certain ones, I'm assuming.
The refineries of the world will pay more. The 85% of small and medium businesses will pay less. But
so me.
There's
Please
a break-off point of about $2.2 million
That's not a yes.
of appraised value where you'll have a 1.5 rate. And you probably don't know what these rates are.
Yeah.
But to describe it very simply is if you're dealing with your home, we take your appraised value, we currently multiply it by 1.35%. That's a taxable value. And then we multiply that taxable value by the number of mills, which is 1/1000th. It's a weird number.
Wow.
Needed to fund your county, your city, and then weirdly, you have state mills that just go to help equalize education and that sort of thing. So there's no doubt something has to come down to make this work. And what's happened, in the last 15 years is that we've lost a lot of the kind of like the traditional industries in the state, for better or for worse.
Right.
It's just a happening. And that what the new
Not the styrofoam industry.
That's another issue.
Yeah.
What the new industry is that when you look at something like Big Sky, the Golden Temple on the hill and what its taxable value is. And so vacation homes, second homes, third homes, short-term rentals. Class 4 properties are about 74% of the total value in the state. And so those are some of the fundamentals we were kind of dealing with.
Yeah, but the issue is not industry. I mean, the industry is not the issue. The issue is that people had their homes reappraised in 2023, and we were trying to get our money back. That was our money from overpaying the taxes to the state, and all the argument was about was tax reform, tax reform, tax reform. Homeowners are just trying to get their money back. And the state did give a small portion of it back, but not all of it.
Why do they hate the spirit of 76? Why would the...
well, because they want that money ongoing, $100 million ongoing into the state is a lot of money ongoing.
It is.
I think what the 528 people fail to talk about is okay, so in the last 2 years, and I would have voted for these things, but there was a public safety levy voted for in Kalispell, maybe $300 on the average household. There was a levy voted for yesterday.
I can't believe it passed.
It passed.
First one since 2007.
I'm not trying to put a value.
Yeah, it passed.
People like that.
And
People
you all
like
can
that.
applaud, but it raised property taxes.
It will. Yes, it will.
And that.
Yeah.
But I think people
it
know
doesn't
that.
raise property taxes to the tune of what the state did. The state
But it's
doubled the taxable value in the state of Montana.
And
Doubled
that's
it
a
in
lot.
a matter
But
of years.
it's part of it that's ignored. That's all I'm saying.
But housing prices have doubled in Montana in the last 4 years. I mean, it's amazing that a $480,000 house is now $1 million house.
It is.
It just is. You know, in 2018.
Except in Macomb County.
Yeah, well, where the fuck is that?
$85,000.
Never heard of that.
What
And
number
those
is that,
folks are going to pay
55?
very low property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
right
You
now.
look at what Anaconda's going to get for relief and these kind of places.
Really?
Yeah. What's happening now is there's a double whammy going on. The urban centers are going to have
Okay,
higher
you're saying that, yeah.
valuations, higher tax rates. Double whammy. And that's going to cause some problems. And there's also this thing that's going to start happening in the local school jurisdictions, especially places like Whitefish, where there's going to be shifting in amongst the residential class itself. And that's a new phenomenon that's kind of coming our way, meaning that you're going to see the more high-end homes get double taxed with the shift, just like we saw with the industry shift previously, where they got this huge tax break.
You say high end? How? I mean,
I don't know what the
is that
overall
millions?
composition is, but high end could be $1 million easy.
Oh,
it could be $1.5 million.
Not more than that.
That's
Yeah.
nothing.
Every house is $1 million.
Yeah,
There's only 5 houses under $1 million for sale
Previously,
here.
just to set the record straight, we have.
You better do that.
I'm going to try that. We have always had a premium rate for expensive homes in the state. That was at the commercial rate of 1.89%. So we're resetting, recalibrating the rate at 1.90%, and then
You're letting the appraisal come in at a full value.
So are you both saying my property taxes more than likely are going to go up?
They're going to go up.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So
How many
you don't-
houses you got? They're going up.
Well, 3.
Yeah.
You have 3
4.
houses. Are they
Oh,
full-time
man.
rentals?
Yeah, they're long term.
Okay, you're going to go down to 1.01.
I mean, I
So
bought one of them for $50,000 25 years ago.
Right.
I'm paying like $3,000 in property taxes, or $3,800 or
So
something.
we're going to have a bet on whether Mike
Yeah.
and I are going to have a bet
Yes.
on whether your taxes are going to go down. I'm saying they're going to go down.
Well, sugar high first year. We
Well, I
agree
don't know
there's
about the
sugar
sugar
high.
high
yeah,
stuff.
Because I'm getting my statement here now any day.
Let's go to June of 2026.
Well, I'm getting my bill any day.
Are we going to get them soon? The
We-
property
What I'm going to
taxes?
say
It's
is
May.
that if the future legislatures don't mitigate this and pay attention to it, then we're going to go back to the same place.
It's
we
going to
are.
get out of hand.
Oh, it's going to get out of hand by next
Yeah.
session.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
There's no fix
say
here.
the November bill comes along, and then people are like, oh my God, Jopek was right. Say this.
I owe him.
There's a
I
first
owe him
time for
some-
everything.
I owe him something.
Yeah.
well,
Absolutely.
would it be
Again,
enough to
first
call?
year sugar high?
Would it be
Sugar
enough to call
high.
a special session to deal with it?
We're going to deal with special session with federal stuff, maybe.
Really?
We're going to deal
well,
with
you might
special,
have to.
We're going to deal with special session when
Oh, you're
Medicaid.
probably gonna have to.
If there's a Medicaid issue, because 43% of our budget's federal.
You're right. You're right. That
It
is.
is.
And
How's that going to work with the president?
I
Yeah.
have no idea. That's the one thing we.
Hey, Kevin made bail.
And made bail.
All right,
God
look at
damn
that.
it. His mom must have.
Well, I
done
was
it
up
for
in
him.
3 special sessions, and I can tell you that is not a place where you actually want to do policy.
You
I
don't
wouldn't
wanna-
think
you don't
so.
wanna go there.
Nobody really wants to be there, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess
Here we
we'll
go.
see.
We'll see what
You guys can
happens.
make the bet yourselves. I'll just call it a gentleman's bet of $10,000.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
And we get 20% here in the show. Okay, I thought this was really fucking dumb. But I guess you'd call me an environmentalist, which I'm not. I just believe we should take care of our land, and like I don't think we should put toxic chemicals in our body. I know it's pretty fucking weak, but you have a bipartisan styrofoam bill to get rid of it, which makes sense. And in fact, a lot of people don't use styrofoam. We don't.
I mean, who
but
drinks
Gianforte's-
coffee out of a styrofoam
fucking
cup?
Gianforte
I know.
does.
I mean, who does?
Yeah.
What kind of pussy takes fucking 30 minutes to drink their goddamn coffee?
Yeah.
I mean, why do you need it in a styrofoam cup? They show them a little styrofoam cup. It is dumb. I mean, it's very dumb. You don't have major corporations using styrofoam, One thing
not
I've always
really.
noticed going to Idaho, and Idaho is hillbilly as fuck. We all know it. They're way conservative.
Way.
It's almost a state law that you have to serve styrofoam because it seems like it, because every Zips you go to or any restaurant you go to, they got styrofoam everywhere. And I thought for sure this was a good bill.
Are you surprised by this veto?
Yeah, because there were Republicans that I read quoted in the paper saying, I don't think he fully understands what's going on here.
Well, I got to tell you, it was
And
a
that doesn't surprise me because he's
it was
never
a
there.
26-24 vote in the Senate, so it's not exactly,
No, that was close. It was a close vote, yes. But it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I know.
What way did you vote for it, huh?
I voted strongly for it, and
Okay.
the issue, and
Just making sure you're still kind of liberal.
and basically what happened in the Senate is that the carrier of the bill in the Senate was a Republican, not one of the 9.
Right.
And basically he brought up health issues about
Yes,
residual issues.
in the containers,
And
getting
that
your kids
when
eating
you,
that.
when you read the veto, it's pretty bellicose. That's the word I want to use, bellicose.
I don't know what that word means.
Yeah,
How about
you're
you,
a
Ed?
lawyer.
You're a damn lawyer, but I think it was got kind of personal, and it did
Bellicose
not.
meaning.
It did not look it up, and it did not talk about the health
Oh,
issues.
I got
with
that.
this.
Demonstrating aggression and willingness to fight.
All right.
So it missed,
Good word
it
choice.
missed an
Dave's not
important
bellicose.
point
Yeah.
of what this was about, and okay, that's it. I mean,
Like, who's
What-
hurt by, like, who's he hurting just because he wants to drink coffee? That's why he vetoed it? He said because he wants to drink it out of wants his
Yeah,
coffee
it's
warm?
owning the libs kind of stuff. I wasn't
Is it
surprised.
owning the
Yeah.
libs?
I wasn't surprised
Right.
to see it vetoed.
No,
I was
I-
disappointed
Trolling
that it was such a
politics, yeah.
weak veto. I mean, the red Sharpie veto.
Right, that was weak.
Come
it was
on.
stupid.
No, it was-
Stupid.
yeah,
That's
I
no
wasn't
branding
surprised.
iron.
At least
I-
throw it in a cup of gasoline and let it melt
Something,
or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
Yeah.
Breathe in those vapors.
As a matter of fact, I was pretty shocked we actually passed it. In this-
I was too. I was like, holy fuck, are we living in California? Like, that's kind of nuts, Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't know. Hey, real quick, I got to be there for the cigar bar
I
debate.
voted for that.
So did Mary Cafaro.
Sorry.
I was texting her, and I was like, God, this is so dumb. Who gives a shit? Smoke it outside. And then as she's calling me, she's hitting yes, and I'm like, wow, I didn't see that, but it's a freedom thing. She's a libertarian. I mean, it's sure.
It was a
I don't
very-
give a shit.
It's for a very limited situation.
You know what? Zoe Zephyr made a really good argument about it.
Thank you, Amy.
She said that she brought up the Clean Air Act, and she says, "What's next? Cigarettes and marijuana? Y'all hate marijuana." Like one woman in this hearing, and this is House, so you weren't there, but she goes, "Y'all talk about the Clean Air Act. What about these dispensaries and the marijuana grows? Because they smell horrible."
you.
And I think it was Cheryl Seekins Crow. I'm pretty sure it
was.
was her. She's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, he almost said it.
I almost said she loves Kevin. Kevin debates her on Facebook. He goes on that wormhole.
Yeah.
But she's like, and you all do that. I'm like, man, there's a lot of stinky things in Montana. Have you ever been to the sugar beet factory?
Oh, yeah.
In Billings? Holy Christ, that smells worse than
It smells
refineries.
horrible.
But anyway, styrofoam's here to stay, I guess. Whatever. The two bills I'm really happy to see fail, and I want to know why, Dave. Was House Bill 856 and Senate Bill 49 was to protect the Attorney General.
We don't know.
You don't know? You don't know why they failed?
No,
You
I
have no
don't.
idea why the Republicans voted?
No.
How?
No, there may have been a conversation with the 8. I'm not sure. You might have been some feelings between giving 3 months and 4 months to Attorney General Knudsen that gravitated with
Is he going to get
folks.
suspended for 3 months?
Perhaps.
And how's
think
that
he
going to
might.
happen? Now there's no legislature to vote on it. Well, how does that happen? How does he get?
Well, lawyers get suspended from the Commission on Practice and the
Right.
Office
Oh,
of
so it's the Office of
Disciplinary.
Commissioner.
You know,
Oh,
the
well.
point is that you can be suspended for so long and retain your office. But if it goes over that period, I don't know. You go into a nebulous thing.
Yeah.
So was Austin pissed off that these bills didn't pass? Probably.
Probably.
I would assume his mommy was probably too.
That's a higher pay grade. I don't know.
Come on, you're a senator.
What do you think?
Is.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, what do you think?
It's politics, you know.
it's like-
Somebody
it's-
squeezed somebody and just popped that.
I think Austin is who they're grooming to be the next governor.
Who are they?
Well, the Republicans.
Yeah,
you
I'd
know?
say he's the front runner.
You don't mean the 9, though. 'Cause
No,
they're
God, no, not
No,
the 9.
not
no.
the nasty
they're
nine.
No.
They're not grooming him.
You know what? If the
I'd say
9,
him or Ellingsworth
if all the
is the
9
front
just said,
runner.
"Fuck it, we're going to run as independents," and you had 7 or 8 Democrats to say the same thing, I mean, Dave, I think I don't know. I don't know. But I think you're the kind of guy who can run as an independent and win because you won as a Democrat in this valley. That's not easy.
That's
You
rare.
know?
What I would tell you is that the 9, the Democrats, were in no hurry to sine die.
Right.
We
no.
felt that we were doing a good thing. We had momentum.
I think a lot of Montana
and,
thought that.
We wanted to get the job done. We
I
really
do
did.
think a lot of Montana really did like it. I mean, you've got your 30% of nut jobs on the right. You got probably 20% of nut jobs on the left. And then you've got, 50% of the people that are kind of regular, There's nut jobs on the Bonnie, come on. Sign lady? No, just kidding. In the legislature, Ellie's a little weird. She's a little weird. She's out
Ellie
there.
and I were kindred spirits in some respects.
No, yeah, you're right.
No, you voted for 528. She voted against
I
528.
know she did.
Well, you're right.
But-
You're not that kindred, are you?
I want to put kudos out to Marianne Dunwell.
Yeah.
Yes, I would too.
Marianne was sort of a profiles in courage, whereas the right could never move over and compromise. I worked closely with Marianne and said, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can to work with you, help you. And then she said, 231 is not great, but it's better than nothing, and I'm gonna support it.
Yeah.
And that's, that was a very noble deed, and she's I don't know, she's been there a long time.
She's got a lot of kudos.
Oh yeah, she's a smart lady.
Yeah,
she's
like
a smart
really
lady. And
congratulating.
Cafaro too. I mean,
Oh,
in
God,
the
Mary's-
House side, she
she's a
was really
saint.
instrumental in
She's amazing.
getting that 0.76 tax
she was
rate
pissed
in
at
there
the-
for
she was pissed
people,
at
and
the
was
income
trying to
tax bill.
increase it so it actually worked for the
So-
flathead.
She had a lot to say about the income tax bill. She really
we
did.
needed to get something forward, and I want to point this out, and I hope I'm helpful on the interim revenue committee, that this is a start. It's not a finish.
What? I thought we were talking about the Attorney General bill.
No, we're not. We're done with that.
Oh,
We're
God.
talking
We're
about the
trying to
property
get you
tax
your money
bill.
back still.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
good.
talking
Thank
the
you.
property tax bill is that it was in no one's interest to go home and do nothing.
Without a doubt, because they would get
Because
catch
then
Yeah,
you're
they'd have
gonna
gotten
talk
slaughtered.
about Monforton. You want to talk about Monforton?
I
Hey,
think
real
a lot
quick,
of
though,
people
when
are
I
gonna
asked-
sign that.
Right.
Real quick,
Right now
Right,
even.
don't you
Right,
find it a
I
little
know that.
weird when I
I know
asked
that.
Dave about
Monforton's
why
thing
that
has,
these bills failed to protect the Attorney General? He's like, we don't know.
We don't know.
Like, you said that pretty fast, as if like you know why.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
why.
All right. Are we gonna find out why?
No.
No, we'll never
No,
find
you'll
out.
never know.
We'll never
God
know.
damn it! That's kind of
Yeah.
juicy shit. I want to
We'll
know.
never-
It was
know.
some high-end politician, probably the Danes people stepped in or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another bills that failed that I think made, well, again, probably 50-60% of Montana, just the a slight majority, probably enjoyed that any bill that makes the Supreme Court partisan failed.
It did.
And how are those talks, Dave? Like, what was that? It seemed like that was a pretty big issue.
It's a huge issue, but on the other hand, we can now, and I'm assuming he's going to sign this if he hasn't already. I don't think he has. Is that the state parties can now donate
To the Supreme Court races.
That's kind of a big deal. That's a chink.
It's kind of the same thing, I guess.
No,
then,
it's
huh?
not the same, but it's a chink in the armor, and
Well, they gave the money indirectly anyway, right? I mean, everybody's able to do that.
Well, everyone thinks that justice is partisan already. I mean, we want to pretend it's nonpartisan, but the first thing
It's
when we
partisan.
say when this decision comes out is like, who appointed that guy?
Seems partisan to me.
Yeah. Well,
look, and I'm going to give a plug. Amy Eddy
to the Montana Half House.
Amy Eddy declared her candidacy today.
Yeah, she
I did see
for
that.
Supreme Court. I like that.
So I was on the school board with Amy, and
Oh, wow.
I'll say if you're with
suppose you
Phil,
were,
Phil
yeah.
Mitchell at the same time.
Oh my God,
right,
I
and
can't.
myself.
Can't believe he was
and
on
we
the school
and we
board.
had-
Felony Phil.
We all got
Moron
along really
Phil.
well, but
He's a fucking moron.
we used Amy was terrific on working on Behavioral Health Commission, on,
Yep.
on talking to us about what some of the issues are in detention centers. And I would say that I know Amy pretty well. She's pretty independent.
Yeah, we're going to get her on the show.
She's
Yes,
pretty,
no, of course, we
she's
have to
pretty
now.
genuinely.
Yeah, she'll come on.
Genuinely independent. And so there may be Republicans who say, yeah. And there'll be Democrats who say, and you know what? That's what we want, in my opinion.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's
and
what
I
we
can tell you what, Swanson's actually surprised me quite a bit.
What
I don't
Swanson
think he's a
said,
bad guy. I mean, I really like Jerry way better, of course. I
but
think Jerry's a
Swanson
great guy.
spoke to
Jerry
us
O'Neill?
on the,
No, Reynolds.
he
I
addressed
do like
us.
Jerry O'Neill, too.
He addressed a joint session.
Swanson did?
Swanson did, and he said, and I know it was to the chagrin of the far right.
Right.
I do not want partisanship.
I know.
And
They don't.
I felt
That surprised me.
I felt really good about that.
No,
And that was- a lot of his
it's a
donors
good
did
thing
not.
to defend. You know, it's one of those things that makes a lot of difference to people, but people never will give anybody credit for it because it's just always been the way it is, and it's just status quo. It didn't really change anything for anybody, but it's a big thing to actually protect the courts like that.
Well, I think it is.
Your newly elected Chief Justice, who is
Especially
thought
in
of
today's
as
climate.
one of your guys, Chief Justice, comes up and says, "Excuse me, but perhaps I'm pretty conservative, but I kind of like the way the system works right now. Don't screw it up."
Well, it's in trouble federally and in a lot of states, Supreme Courts. I mean, people are really, they're trying to, I mean, and this is coming from the right, the extreme right, you know, they're really trying to run everything. Everything's, you know, shoving religion down your throats, shoving whatever they want and what they think, you know, and keeping these courts bipartisan, I think it's only going to help. It's not going to make things worse.
I think
you know?
the real issue is people is some folks on the right have great angst at our Constitution.
Oh God,
so
yes.
they're talking about
of
the
course they do.
Constitution. Now,
Donald Trump being one of them,
I'm talking about our state Constitution.
but the
Yeah.
leader of
But
them. But yeah, you're right.
I
We're gonna have a convention in 2030. We are.
Do you think we'll have one in 2030?
Well,
Dave?
I was just going to say that. I remind you that one of the beautiful parts of what the framers did is they put the Constitution back to the people,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
Every 10 years.
And said that 20 years.
Oh, it's 20?
Yeah, it's
every
20.
20
Oh,
years,
that's better.
you can decide if you want a constitutional convention. And I think they made it relatively accessible to do constitutional initiatives. I think this is a real people's constitution.
If this was 2030 right now, we would definitely be in one with the Republicans we have,
It'd be
without
close.
a doubt. There's
we
no
were
doubt
close
in
in
my mind.
2010.
Huh?
It was close in 2010.
It was close. You're right.
Beware.
Yeah.
Beware.
No, well, that's why Upper
They're
7
gonna
Law's
strip
doing their
that
roadshow.
90-day limit out of the Constitution.
Oh, you
for
would,
the legislature.
dude. The
Those
right
guys
to a
gotta
healthy
be up
environment,
there
that's
all
gone.
Oh, they'll be up there for months.
The right to a healthy environment, that's gone. Privacy is gone.
But
Guarantee those are both
I gotta
gone.
remind you, the majority of the legislature is a combination of left of center and moderates. That's the majority. That's where we are right now.
Wait. In Montana, you're saying they're left of center and moderates.
Moderates. That's exactly what
That's
I'm
the
saying.
majority.
Well,
But
unless we're
Republicans
talking
have
about-
90
unless
seats.
we're
the
talking about
majority.
bathrooms or any of those
Right,
other social issues.
Yeah, Dave,
you know.
Dave, wait a second. You got to explain this. There's 90 Republicans, 60 Democrats. You're saying that our politicians here in Montana are moderate or leaning left.
Yes.
But
The majority, but not.
the majority's way Republican. You're saying Republicans are leaning to the left.
No, I'm saying the combination.
Right.
Of putting.
So if you take 150 of them,
Yeah.
and 75 of those are moderate or left-leaning.
Yeah. I'm
Half
saying
of them
that-
are moderate or
that when you look
left-leaning.
at the
Yeah.
27,
all right,
when you
I
look
can
at
see
the
that.
27,
But
23
they
vote,
repealed MEPA environmental laws.
Yes.
You know, they got all these
That
crazy
doesn't seem very
bathrooms.
moderate
Those
to
are not
me.
moderate the kind of things.
Making Christ is king. There was like 8 fucking sponsors on that bill.
Chemtrails.
That was horrible. That passed somewhere. The Christ is king passed in like Kentucky or somewhere.
I did see that, yeah.
It did.
Oklahoma or
I mean, that was. I'm glad. You know, whatever. I mean, Christian nationalism is alive and well. Montana is always going to be, I guess. Lawmakers approved about $124 million in state spending and up to $40 million in federal funds over the next 2 years for behavioral health services. Dave, I like to think you have something to do with this. A new state-owned facility, and Mary, new state-owned facility and additional beds in existing facilities. Now, is this money going to actually go to these programs?
Yes.
And go for sure.
Yes.
It's not like the $100 million to teachers that's just not going to go anywhere.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say the $100 million for teachers are going to go there.
Okay, well, all right.
Where's Kevin?
Kevin's here. I don't know. Where is he here?
Yeah, the STARS Act
He would
is
like
the
to argue.
STARS Act, and
Yeah.
it's $100 million over 2 years plus the 3% inflation.
So what's this going to do to the behavioral health? Because we all know in Montana, if you have mental health issues, you're a criminal. There is nowhere to go for you except jail.
There's jail.
There's jail. That's it. And our jails are our psychiatric institutions, you know.
And they are not equipped to handle
we
it.
have Warm Springs, you know,
Yeah.
and they're super full, you know.
Right.
I mean, we're shipping them to Arizona, you know. But again, you know, I don't read too much in it. I mean, it's America. We incarcerate more people than anybody in the fucking world by far. There's a lot of money in it, and that's how it is. And again, it will stay that way because of the money that's involved in putting people in prison.
But that's sort of a talking point, you're saying.
It is.
You know, so stay away from the talking point.
So what are they going to do for mental?
let's-
Are we going to create facilities now, like in the Flathead? Are we going to get a facility? Will this money help us build a facility for mental health instead of just throwing these people in jail?
This facility is
Because we're supposed to get in a whole new jail here.
right, and we've addressed some of the holding facilities by looking at services that will be supplied for folks who are incarcerated and they're in an inappropriate place as far as being in the detention center.
Right.
So speeding up the process of getting an evaluation and making sure that evaluation happens in a much speedier manner as part of it. Putting forward lots of intermediary persons, caseworkers. We will be looking at a couple of facilities. One is designated for, and I'm going to believe it's going to be in the Billings area. We're also looking at creating what's called a step-down facility. So a step-down facility would be something that looks at the high number of folks, for example, who are in Warm Springs, who aren't quite ready to get out into the community yet, but need some intermediary spot.
Yes, and I think that's needed.
And so that one of the thoughts is to look at a Helena location, looking at maybe the old Show Deer location for doing that. But I think that we are looking at some pretty meaningful reforms into the.
Yeah,
into-
good. Well,
I mean, I think it's.
some
I
people
think-
sit in jail too long, and then their time expires. They've been in jail too long, so they have the
Right,
and then they
absolutely.
just let them go.
Yep.
Then they go and do the
Absolutely.
same
And
fucking
he
thing. You go right
this
back
guy
to jail.
knows-
He
this
knows
guy
he
knows
defends these
about
people
that a
every
lot.
day.
Yep.
Right.
You
Every
know,
day.
and to me, I think it's criminal that the state of Montana hasn't done shit about this. Now, if maybe it's the case we didn't have many crazy people when Dwight Bullock were governor. I don't know
That's
that.
not true. I mean, Weinberg was working on this issue back when he was in Dave's seat, you know.
Right.
And
Well, yeah.
You know, he was the guy that said.
But nothing got done.
Well, you know, it was.
Some things get done, but
Some
it's just
things
not-
slowly get done, and
Right.
you know, even back then they were handcuffing people to take him to Warm Springs, and Weinberg was like, "Well, you got to stop that."
Yeah.
I know.
They're shackling people to get to Warm Springs.
I
That's
know.
how bad it is.
Well, I've been to
Right.
that facility. I've taken a couple vacations. There's beautiful. No, I'm just kidding. I was
There
visiting.
is-
I was visiting people,
There's
but
also significant
there's a
There's
list to get in.
significant dollars being put into Warm Springs and Galen as far as improvements.
Good.
Let me say that I think one of the bottom lines on this and one of the difficulties is finding leadership. And so when you look at who runs that facility, person has to be very competent and willing to stay for a while to deliver these types of reforms. And when you look at DPHHS, there has to be a high degree of competency within the director and with the department, sub-department heads.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, if you look at school districts, you know, you will prosper when you have a good superintendent and you have good administrators
without a
and
doubt.
a good strategic
Without a
plan.
doubt.
And this is what,
Same deal. Same thing applies to this.
right.
And
You
now,
will- I feel somewhat confident that we're moving in a good direction. I appreciate, so what I've done in the last 3 or 4 days is I've contacted the department head of DPHHS, the director, and said, before the commission ends at the end of June, we need to get together one more time.
yeah.
And we need to debrief. We need to
Right.
see where we are. We need to see what's left in the budget. We've only moved forward 10 of the 20 recommendations. How are we going to deal with the rest of them? What's our plan? where do we go?
Come up with a
And
timeline, get something done.
So exactly. So what I'm hoping that I will be part of is that discussion, and that to keep this going is really important.
And where are we at? If you might not know this, and we've interviewed Randy Brodel and Brad Abel and we about the new jail Patriots that the new jail we're getting that will have mental health services combined in the jail. It's going to be an all-in-one.
I don't
trust them at all.
Yeah, I'll believe
exactly.
it. Exactly.
Are we any closer to getting a new facility in the Flathead? Do you know? I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything for like 6 months now.
I've advocated for a facility that this new facility ending up going to the Billings area. I pushed hard for the Flathead area.
Yeah. Well, we need one.
I do believe yes.
Without a doubt we do. I mean, our jails are full.
Right.
Probably 30% of the people in the jail belong in a mental health complex.
The faster you can move people in an appropriate way out of Warm Springs. So what was happening is, and this is going to sound like the Venezuela story, is that you take someone out of Warm Springs, you drop them off at a homeless shelter in the middle of the night in the wrong city, and you say,
"Yep,
here you go.
They're done."
You know, you're a little crazy, so work on that. But
so what was happening is that we did not have a transition program at the point that we needed to make sure that not only were we doing the right thing morally to people, but we weren't throwing money down the toilet saying, "Oh, we'll see you back in a couple months. We'll just throw you out in the street." So we have to work much smarter than we've worked. And
if you got a little bit of confidence, I think
I have a little bit of confidence.
That's a beacon of hope out there, I guess.
You got to go back to what Dan Weinberg did. We're building it on people who tried really hard to reform the system.
Weinberg told me he'd be here tonight.
It's
and
government work. I mean, government work takes so long.
Everything takes so goddamn long.
And one of the things that I'm just disappointed on is I've listened to a lot of Democrats and Republicans kind of talk about what came out of the session. And, I get the healthcare stuff, and, I get some of this other justice stuff. But what's the stuff that came out of the session that's real tangible for the working guy?
Right.
How did it make the working guy's life better? And we have all this kind of like esoteric stuff. We're doing this, and this. But where's the rubber meeting the road kind of stuff? And I haven't heard anybody really say that.
I don't know. What do you want? Behavioral health services. Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah, if we can get it actually going.
If we get it going, the money's there. Yes, but you're right. I mean,
the money is there. It's committed. It's definitely there.
All right, so I want to talk about this because we were talking about earlier about how the movies and this and that, and Trump's put the tariffs on the movies. And what happened to the tax credit for movie production in Montana? Because that was up, and what happened?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
I might have got an email from some guy.
Right, I know. Some guy wrote you an email and said, "Ask about the media tax credit."
Some lunatic.
Well, it's interesting.
It's super interesting because
that's how you get people to film in your state, like we were talking about before. People in Canada, they make it worth it for this company to come and film in Banff instead of Teton National Park.
$20 million to view over like 8 years or something.
Yeah, I know Yellowstone had an economic impact. Yeah. But what it takes is what's called as a dynamic fiscal note, is that you need to be able to project the impacts beyond the obvious. And so what we're looking at is if you do work in Livingston, example, you're shooting something in Livingston, what's the impact on the hardware store there? What's the impact on the bed and breakfast there? Right. And to actually get that down, and we obviously don't have a sales tax, so it's a little bit harder to track. But we do have some excellent data coming from the University of Montana.
Go Grizz.
Go Grizz.
And so that I was, this issue of tax credits in Montana is split, and it's not political. There are some Democrats who think it's corporate cronyism.
Well, what are they going to get for movies, though? What kind of tax break could a movie company get? Like not pay a bed tax for all their actors here? Like, I don't really understand what kind of benefit that we would...
You get a refundable tax.
Like, they're not paying taxes here anyway.
You get a portion of a tax credit that you can sell. And that's a very important part.
I don't get.
No, I'm gonna tell you how you're going to get it. Is that it's very much... It's very much similar to low-income tax credits for housing. And so that when you look at the project on Edgewood Place, the developers of that didn't have the type of liability necessary. So they received a lot of tax credits, and then you can sell it on a secondary market. And that's much of so you get maybe 90% of the value of it.
Right.
And that's how this works. It's the same with film credits. So the issue is what Trump was saying is that we have a pretty vibrant movie economy here. Media. It's not just movies. It's like New Mexico really set the stage where they set up large studios and developed credits because
And Vegas is going big on that
Netflix was very involved, and what they were lacking was space to produce. It wasn't that there wasn't demand, and so they built the space. They had
in
the
New
credit.
Mexico.
New Mexico.
Cheap as hell there. Why not?
So
That's where they
that
film Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, I
so
love
what
that
I'm
show.
doing is I'm just presenting you with a model, and so the Georgia is not the country of Georgia,
The state.
of Georgia.
Yeah.
Marjorie
Very-
Taylor Greene's homeland.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Very, very high tax credit state, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so what they do is they try to evaluate, is this worth doing it? Is this a race to the bottom? Yes.
Yeah.
It's a race to the bottom. It's much like if you're building a Hyundai assembly plant in Mississippi and it costs you, $100,000 per worker. Is that worth it or is it not worth it? And for some states it's worth it and they want to compete, and for others it's not.
Okay.
We have a very modest tax credit in the state of Montana.
I still don't understand what the tax credit is for a production company out of Los Angeles to film here. How are they saving money and getting a tax credit in Montana when they don't own land or employ people in Montana?
Because they're giving a credit for production in the state. They're giving essentially a discount
They're
on
doing
their
work
income.
in
On a discount on what though?
On income.
On their income.
So they're
Tax.
if they're making, but say this is a California company. Their payroll's done in California. The company's registered.
Not
in
if they're
California.
working in
Not if they're
Montana.
working
But if they're
here.
working in Montana,
They're going to pay Montana
so they're
income
going to pay
tax.
Montana income tax. So they okay.
You say on your taxes,
Are
I
you
was in
kidding me?
Montana
Like-
for 91 days.
So if you
So-
live in Spokane and you're an engineer and you're driving the Hoover to Spokane route, but you live in Spokane, you're paying when you're working in Montana, you're paying Montana income tax,
Yes.
even though you live in Spokane.
Yes.
How
Think
the
of it.
fuck
Think
does
of it
that
like
work?
athletes.
It works very well.
These
So
Denver
what-
Nugget players are playing Oklahoma State tax right now.
You what? Oh, when you're working for oil?
When I was oil, I had six returns from 6 different states.
Oh,
Right.
wow! I had no idea. I've only worked in
So-
Montana.
But if you listen to like Linwood Fields, I mean, she thinks this is a good thing with the Montana Media Company, and that's why you get these movies sometimes in Montana.
Right. Well, I can see it being-
1923, where you got Alex yelling at to Spencer on the Freightliner, or else I'll meet you in Bozeman, Montana. I mean, that's what you're gonna get.
Okay,
You know,
all
even
right.
though they filmed a lot of
Well,
it in Butte,
Mike's
they're
a
still
film
gonna-
head. He
Well,
knows
I'm glad.
his
So
movies.
I'm
Yeah.
glad the genius had emailed us these
All
questions.
right,
Did
so
that?
to tell you what happened is that there was a bill to increase the limit on this, the cap, from $18 million to $30 million. And quite frankly, that is chump change in
Right,
the
that's
world.
nothing.
All right, but
That's
for
nothing.
but stop. If for Montana, it's a big thing. And basically what's built into this bill was a preference to a degree for Montana productions. So it was giving room for independent producers. And what it was trying to do was take the kids who graduate UM or MSU and keep them here.
Right. Oh, that,
Okay.
yeah. That's,
All right,
that makes
so
sense.
what happened is...
They don't, but that makes
All right,
sense.
So the bill failed to increase the amount. It kept it at the same. And 2 years ago, the same thing happened where it tied in the House 50-50. We reconsidered it. There was a different blend of 50-50. And so what was happening was a lot of people saying, yeah, I know what Yellowstone did, but I don't like tourism. I don't want any of this stuff. And
Right.
you had a real mix of Republicans and Democrats saying, no, thank you.
Depends
Now-
on where they live. You're right.
now,
without
I
a doubt.
disagreed with that because, well, first I know Linwood. I know the family real well. And I think it's a marvelous opportunity, especially for rural communities, Native American communities. I mean, to me, it's a win-win, a relatively modest amount. And let me
Bottom line is bringing in money
let
to
me
the community.
finish this by saying $272 million for income tax. Let's just subtract $18 million from it. and see what the dynamic fiscal note would be on that for communities in rural areas.
It's all about priorities, and that's why you need more Democrats up there, because we've got the Republican priorities running the show.
Yeah,
and
we do.
Everyone's kind of like, well, that's kind of okay. We'll make it a little bit better. We'll put some
But
pickles on that sandwich.
As far
It'll
as
be
what
all right.
Trump said,
They're all going to be deal makers like
as far
Fern.
as what Trump said, he was not understanding that this is all about tax credits.
That's a big surprise.
This is all about tax credits.
He doesn't understand anything. He's the all-knowing.
In that folks will go to British Columbia because there's a lot of tax credits there.
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan,
and one of the things is there is somewhat of a minor exodus from California.
Yeah,
so
you're
there's
right.
lots of opportunities. And for me, this is an opportunity for Montana, for the arts. I think it's a win-win. And
I like it.
It's great. It's going to be low subtitles. If it's going to be
Right,
subtitles,
it's all
I
about
like
it.
it.
Yeah,
big print,
right.
we're
I'm
going
all
to be able
about
to
it.
read
We're
it.
unanimously in
reading.
favor. No reading at all. All right, parking spaces, tall buildings. What's up with that, Dave?
oh, I love parking spaces in tall buildings.
Are we going to talk about the 60-foot buildings coming into Whitefish?
Well, I'm pushing that. You know that.
Well,
we
they're
won't
coming
talk
'cause
about that now. But no, I'm talking about fucking 120 feet.
No, the legislature passed the law.
Five
that said-
stories. Five
yeah,
stories.
60 feet.
So 60 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
60 feet.
But the city can still not allow it though.
no, it's you can't.
It has to be in commercial areas.
Which
Or
is fine.
downtown.
Here's
Downtown.
my idea is real quick. My idea has always been like take all those houses on Baker. These people have dealt with fucked up traffic for 20 years. Give them the highest dollar amount for those houses. Let a developer that owns 40 acres of canola fields trade the 40 acres of canola fields for a half acre on Baker Avenue. Let them build a fucking 10-story building, 4
not
stories
ten-
of deed-restricted housing, and 6 stories of million-dollar condos with incredible
I
views.
don't know when the legislature got into subdivision review,
Well,
but they need to get the hell out of that business.
I know. So anyway, though, so
I don't agree with what he's saying, but,
No.
but he's been out of it for a long time.
well, Mike's kind of out of it, farmers and all.
Right.
What happened to luxury vehicle tax bill? Because this is our last topic is it relates to this. What
Well,
happened to that?
Well, the luxury, and the very last act of the legislature, on the last day, I was actually in a conference committee.
This was the last deal, wasn't it? You guys couldn't get it through.
And I don't even know why. I do not. Well, I was on a conference committee. We had so a conference committee is when the House and the Senate don't agree.
Who owns luxury vehicles up there?
All of them?
Who owns? Well, I don't-
Dave Fern, yeah.
Yeah.
Dave Fern.
Yeah, here you go. I have a mega Lexus and a $500,000 RV. But what this has been, it's actually
God
been
damn it.
It's been a pretty
You
lucrative
too.
business as it is, and so the proposal was to increase the fee. The folks who are the businesses that do this registration said, if we raise it so high, we'll go out of business. They'll go to Alaska.
Good.
Just shut up for a minute. We'll go to Alaska. And so I put an amendment.
Wait, how many luxury vehicles can they have in Alaska?
Right.
Well, it's not about Alaska.
Do you know how many Montana plates are in L.A. on Ferraris?
It's not about
fucking
Alaska.
sickening.
It's just about registering at a competitive rate, and there's no sales tax. So Montana has a pretty good thing going. It takes in quite a bit of money because of this.
Oh.
So what happened is that the proposal was to increase the fees. The vendors of this thought it's too high, so I put an amendment in the Senate Transportation to lower it. Okay, then went over to the House and went back up. So it goes to a conference committee, and there is a compromise. Okay, we passed a compromise, and then here we are, and in the Senate we vote against it, and I don't know why.
Well, the deal fell through.
Well, Dave,
Well, yeah, but
Listen.
I don't know. There was
Here's-
no prediction of
here's
this.
my argument and my whole deal about this thing. I was talking to my insurance agent today, about
Yes.
this.
About
I
your
s-
luxury car?
Well, kind of. No.
Which one?
No,
Yeah.
I'm talking
Got all
about
those
that.
houses.
Montana allows
we
it
gotta
out of
get into
state
this wings
out-of-state
business.
businesses to come here and form an LLC for $50
Right.
and insuring their vehicles in Montana, licensing them in Montana. All these tour groups for bands, for tours, for the public. All these buses are registered in fucking Missoula County.
It's
Okay,
been going on
thousands
for
of them. It's going on for
20,
20.
30
It may
yeah.
not be Missoula.
Okay, now
County.
listen to
Actually,
this.
Flathead
But
County
here,
is a better place to do
Dave
it.
and Mike, both of you, because you were in the legislature, like we're allowing this to happen.
Yes.
and these people are paying lower insurance rates. They're paying. It's a very beneficial to these people, rich people, to buy their cars here, for companies that are tour buses here. But what I don't think you guys know, and I don't think a lot of people know, that I found out today, I did not know, that if you get in a car accident with that Montana plate in Los Angeles, California, or Alamo, Texas, wherever the fuck you are, your rates go up in Montana, not in the state the accident happened in. That is complete bullshit, but it's absolutely what happens, you know? And that, to me, says, okay, so we're allowing 10,000 cars to be licensed for business in California. Just say at least 10,000. I mean, because the cars that are registered in the LLCs here far exceed the number we have. So now we're allowing these companies to jack our insurance rates on our vehicles because they're getting in accidents in other states. Because that's exactly how it works. That my insurance agent told me this today. So instead of this luxury tax for, you know, luxury vehicle bills and stuff, why don't we just stop this easy formation of LLCs for out-of-state companies to come here and just abuse and use the shit out of us?
You're the first person to talk about the abuse. So
I can't be.
Yes, you are. So I'm not doubting you.
That is fucked up.
Oh my God,
Well,
this stuff's been going on for 20, 30
No,
years.
no. I know
It
this.
has.
It has.
But we can't. But why impose a luxury? If you impose a luxury tax on a vehicle, you're hurting Montanans that actually live here that own Ferraris. I don't give a fuck. If you own a Ferrari, you can pay more. They do anyway. But the truth is, these people, we have thousands of accidents happening out of our state with our state cars, and they don't do your rates by accidents in the state. They do it by your license plates. And I was blown away by that. That I think is incredibly unfair.
Well, I would agree if what.
Well, that's good. We agree on something.
Well, I would agree if what you're saying is accurate.
It is accurate. No, it is, because it makes perfect sense. He showed me exactly, laid it out. You know Joe Akey. It's had his.
I do know
yeah.
Joe Akey.
So I think it, and I don't know why nobody brings this shit up, because that was eye-opening to me. It really was.
Well, it's eye-opening to me.
Like, it's something that, like, I was like, wait a second, wait. I go, so this tour bus that's giving people tours of Big Sur, licensed, you know, in California, but they have Montana plates because we allow them to do that. And Wyoming does the same thing. Alaska does the same thing. They get in a big accident, a fucking boulder falls off the building, and insurance got to pay out $10 million to each fucking to 78 people that were on this bus. Our rates go up because that had a Montana plate. All I got to say. I mean, that to me is kind of bad.
I mean, what you're doing is you're one individual based on one individual telling me that, and it's the first time I've heard it.
Well, next session we got some work to do, it sounds like.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
Good. Well, and don't let me forget it, because I probably will. Like,
No,
but I think it's a big deal.
He will.
I know. It's a big deal that we get to the bottom of this and find out the absolute truth, and how much is it actually costing us in Montana because of all these businesses. Like, I've driven around L.A. plenty, San Diego, Las Vegas. I'm blown away with the Montana place. Like, wow, we probably know that person. Naive. I'm naive as fuck. I have no idea they're doing this. All these Iron Horse people live in Texas. 80% of them. They all register vehicles in Montana. And they go and get in a car accident in Dallas. Our rates go up. That sucks.
Well, I would want to know, how much do our rates go up?
We're going to get that proof. We have 2 years to work on it.
I would want data on it before I believe you.
Okay.
All right.
No offense intended.
Final thing. How would you rate Gianforte, Dave? As a senator, how would you rate our governor? I mean, I'll give you my opinion real quick.
Yeah.
I think he's fucking hands off. I don't really like the guy much. I
Let
think
him
he's
have it,
pompous.
Dave.
And I think he believes I mean, even though we have dinosaur fossils all over the state of Montana, he still tells you that the Earth is 6,000 years old and people live with dinosaurs. To me, that's fucking ridiculous. It has no place in American politics or just in American life. If you're going to be that's stupid, I guess. I got a problem with it. But I just see a difference between him and the last 4 governors we've had as far as being men or women of the people. Even Judy Marks, as ridiculous as she was, I still felt she was somebody that was in touch with people. Gianforte, I don't see that. So give me your rate of our great governor.
Well, first I would like to rate based on department heads and who you're hiring. And
I think he's hired good people.
This quiet for a minute.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm just saying. Yeah, I mean, I do, which is weird.
Right. So I hadn't thought about this rubric in the sense of the first part of it of department heads until I got in the Senate and started dealing with department heads.
Right.
And department heads, quality department heads or a lack of quality department heads will make this system work or not work. The department heads have been pretty good. I'm impressed that there are a couple of women put into department head positions who are capable, you know, and I'm not sure it's such a partisan.
I think he had to put good department heads in there if he's going to be kind of hands off. He's a busy guy. He's a
Well,
billionaire.
anybody should put good department.
He's a
heads.
billionaire.
that
He's
slush
got a fucking
fund,
private
yeah.
jet flying around
I
doing
mean, you want
mixers.
an answer. You don't want a snarky answer. You just want an objective answer.
Yeah, I want
That's
a real
what you're
answer.
going to get from me. And you may not like what
I
I say,
know.
but I'm going to say it.
You
that
could
I think-
bring a little more pizzazz, Dave. I'm just saying.
but
So,
I-
Da-
yeah.
Dave-
Okay, follow. Yeah.
Last question.
No, it's not. I haven't even answered the
Oh,
question.
let him finish this one. All
Yeah,
right.
we'll finish this one, but also if we're talking about department heads, let's be frank. The DPHSS threw 123,000 people off health care.
They did.
That's
the
true.
department head that did that.
Right.
Let's be clear that
Wait
the
a second, that's
Department
the-
of Revenue department
Oh,
head
yeah.
didn't give you all your property tax money back that you gave them. That's the department head that's doing that kind of stuff. So while we got good
Fair
department heads, they're also doing some stuff that you might not agree with.
I would guarantee that. All right, finish that answer.
So I disagree with that statement.
Oh, God. We should have brought
Sorry.
boxing gloves for these two. They're really getting at it.
But I think I've spent a lot of time with these department heads, and none
Democrats
of,
aren't supposed to disagree. Just
no
kidding.
folks are perfect, but I think they're reasonably good.
So how do you rate Gianforte? On a grading scale.
Well, then
F plus.
Then I have to look at all the Republicans who call him a rhino Republican because of the
That blows my mind. It does.
because of the budget.
Do you think he's a rhino?
No.
No, I do
No,
not either.
I think that
But
my-
Regier would.
My evaluation of the Republicans is I split them in three places. I have the Solutions Caucus, I have the
Bad,
far
worse, and
right,
horrible.
and I have what I would call the pragmatic conservatives. And I would put Gianforte as a pragmatic conservative, meaning that he'll go with some budgetary, the 100 million plus on schools, the Medicaid, going with a lot of the recommendations of the Behavioral Health Commission. Basically I think his budget proposal was pretty moderate, and
Yeah.
it worked pretty well with Democrats. The social positions are kind
Whack.
of Neanderthal.
Whack.
I don't agree with them.
I think the kids would say whack.
But you're asking for an
yeah.
evaluation.
Yeah, as far as the job he's done and what,
And
you
so
know.
I have to look at that. I have to look at the budget. So to me, I put more emphasis on departments and budget than I do on the other stuff, though I'm not comfortable particularly with some of the social positions.
So A minus?
No.
Well, they all failed, so it's good. You
Right.
know, we're not
So
having
I'll
it.
probably give them a C.
A C? Fair to Midland, and Mike, real quick, what would you give him?
I wouldn't give him a C. I look at throwing those 123,000 people off health care, and I think that's just a travesty.
That's horrible. You're
trying,
right.
Trying to make justice partisan, that is the wrong-headed thing to do. Not giving people their property tax reappraisal money back, wrong-headed, should not be doing that.
So he's getting an F from you.
He's not getting a C from me, that's for
Okay,
sure.
all
Yeah.
right. All right, Ryan, what was the question you had for Dave?
Yeah, what was the question?
What do you do in between sessions, Dave? More
cleans
knocking on
chimneys,
doors?
man.
You do anything in Helena at all, or?
Well, we have interim committees.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
right
once
now
in a
I'm on
while.
one interim committee.
Which one'd you get on?
I'm on revenue.
Okay.
I made it.
We'll see you.
Oh, finally.
One of the sneaky bad things that was done was that there was a bill that we haven't corrected, that basically put the minority at a great disadvantage on interim committees.
Oh, it's a terrible injustice what they did last session.
So you know who did that? You know who did that?
Who?
Senior Regier.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
Yeah.
I think it should be at least proportional.
It's terrible to make the interim's supposed to be bipartisan. That's where all the work is really happening.
Yes.
And what turns out now is it's turning into this partisan
It's
machine.
partisan as
Look
fuck.
what
Yes, it
Ellsworth
is.
was trying to do with that Make Justice Partisan Committee and getting 500,000 from
What-
Gianforte on
What's
it.
he
I mean,
running
that's
for
just-
next time? What do you think?
Done.
OPI?
He's done.
Oh,
He's
no,
done.
he's not done.
He's not done.
He's
No,
not
fuck the
done.
way. He's got millions of dollars.
No, no.
I mean, he's
I'm
probably one
saying
of our
he's
wealthiest
done. We're
senators.
gonna make another bet, but I'm thinking he's done.
Okay, another bet. Good. $10,000.
I don't know what
We'll
it's
see what
for.
happens.
I don't know
I
what
hope
it's
he's
for.
done because a guy like that, he just doesn't belong. I'm
You
sorry.
know what?
He voted with Democrats, so Democrats are happy with him, but he
No,
still
I want
sucks
to
as a
say
human.
something in his defense. Is that when he was here, First of all, I served on an interim committee.
You liked it when he coughed on people when he had COVID at the Capitol 2 years ago?
I don't want to talk about that. But, you know, he was...
No mask.
When he was here part of the year, I valued his participation in the local government committee I was on. I valued some of the stuff he said on the floor. I mean, I voted to expel him. I'm going to make that clear.
You did. You were one of the only Democrats that did that.
But, you know, his talk when he talks about health care, I mean, he's right on message with health care. You know, good stuff he says about health care.
He's smooth as fuck, dude. I mean, he got fined. He had to pay $600,000 to the FCC for a pyramid scheme that he's still involved in. I mean, and the Republicans still elected this guy Senate president, knowing this. After that first day when I saw you, Dave, and you guys were voting on kicking him out or censoring him, and neither of them worked. I don't know if I ever told you this, but after the vote, I went outside to smoke, and there was a woman sitting at the one of the tables having her vape, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Ed," and she's like, "I'm gonna go. Can you fucking believe it?" She goes, "I can't." She goes, "This motherfucker's going to get away with anything he wants the rest of his life because all he has is money. He's got a lot of money. He has no fucking friends. He's the most vile person I've ever met in my life, and he's going to get." And I was like, "Holy shit!" She was really opinionated, but I know, but I know a lot of people that have that opinion of him. I do.
But
he's a sleazy guy.
What I tried to think about in my vote was trying to side as best as I could with the victims. And basically saying with the context of the ethics committee, which is very different, that due process was presented. And what we ended up with was a censure that was almost an expulsion. It was kind of the same thing.
Well, telling him he can't be there physically on the floor the rest of his life. And that's kind of funny.
That's
yeah, we'll see if he can do that.
We'll see. Like, what did you say he was going to run for OPI or something? You're like, yeah, he'll probably run for that.
Something good.
I mean, why is he running for clerk of the Supreme Court? Because it pays six figures and he doesn't have to do anything. I think that's probably why. Yeah. He just kind of.
I mean, but we like to give lawmakers a hard time, but you know, it's not the. It's kind of the bottom of the barrel kind of stuff. I mean,
big time.
You know, and I don't mean it with any disrespect. That was up there too. And I got it, and it was the hardest thing for me to figure out is like, oh, this isn't always a reasoned discussion.
That's right.
It's a very emotional discussion, and, you know, the people we send up there, they get kind of termed out, and so you get newbies all the time. Half the Democrats in the House are newbies this session, and, you know, there's a steep learning curve, and people run for election for a whole bunch of different reasons, and it's not always to make your community better.
No, not at all. Sometimes it might be to line their own pockets a day for.
I agree. It's not.
These are the most genuine people I've ever met in my life, and I thank God that.
It's not. It wasn't him. It wasn't me. I think we do it for the right reason.
Dave, I'm really happy you're representing us. I'm going to tell you that.
I think we both believe it's somewhat of an honor to be there.
Oh yeah, no,
it's
look,
pretty cool
I
place
want
to be.
lawmakers to have the debates, to have the uncomfortable discussions with their constituents, to keep democracy moving, because I do not want us fighting in the streets about this stuff. This stuff belongs to be debated in the chambers, in the legislature. We need to have, that's how it's supposed to be done, and that's the way forward. And yeah, we're going to disagree sometimes, but hey, we're still here, we're still talking to each other, and life is still good.
Well, I'm really proud of Dave and Debo, and you know,
Debo's done a great job.
You know, Courtney used to be kind of moderate, and I think she swung pretty far right. You know, and I think she kind of went under Regeer's wing, I guess, and knows that that's where the power is. That's what the people like, and you know, we'll keep fighting those people for sure. And
it's very hard to get threatening. Whatever, time after time after time, and sometimes perhaps you crack after it. You know what I mean? It's serious. I mean, I know what former Rep. Frank Garner went through.
God
was
Why isn't he
extremely
governor?
intense. And the interesting thing is that a lot of times it doesn't come from your district. It comes from out of district, pissed off activists. Why the hell are you increasing the gas tax? Well, because we've got to keep the roads going. You know what I mean?
You bitch about potholes every day, so what do you want me to do?
Right. God love the activists, because that's the only thing that gets the lawmakers to compromise.
Oh, we just gave Bonnie, and she's gone. We just gave her. We want to thank Tamarack Brewing. Dire Need Dispensary, $100 ounces every day, tax included. That's not a bad deal, right there.
It's not a bad deal.
Is this product placement?
Yeah,
it is.
Well, we have to. We got to help our advertisers. Averill Hospitality gives us rooms for our out of town guests. I think that's pretty great. We want to thank you guys very much for being here. Dave, Fern, Mike Jopek, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 3-week break. We'll be back June 4th, better than ever. We'll have
We got
a
a bunch of
Venmo.
No
We'll have a
wings
logo.
next week?
No
not
wings.
for you guys. No fucking way.
We got a bunch of great guests coming up. There's rumors John Tester will be on the show.
Oh,
We've got,
yeah, we got rumors of
Kelly's
that. That's
brother
right.
Kevin is going to come on and dispel some
that'd be
myths.
great.
Dispel some myths about San
We're going to have the
Francisco.
guy that's running against
Russell
Zinke.
Cleveland's
Russell
gonna come
Cleveland
on.
will be our first guest June 4th, we believe.
Just talked to John Tester.
He's
the
locked
other
in.
day.
Tanya
Yes,
Horn.
John Tester.
Tanya Horn will be
Good. He's
June
an
11th.
inspector, yeah.
I
Teacher of the
believe.
Year is going to be on, I think.
Who's that?
My buddy. He was one
Okay, good.
Teacher of
Oh,
the
yeah,
Year a
we got
couple
teacher-
years ago.
oh, Teacher of the Year, we
We
want
got a
that.
great lineup of guests coming.
Devo
Super.
Powers will be on, and we'll drag Dave back here at some
Brad
point.
Abel?
We'll see on I don't know if he's coming.
So
Brad-
back
would be
in
good.
June, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, June 4th.
June 4th.
Mike, are you going to still be with us?
I think so. You want me to keep talking?
Fuck yeah, we do. We need Ed O'Neill on our show.
Right,
Somebody's got to keep this.
We got to bring Jerry O'Neill.
Love and
We gotta
America.
be
I really
You think
wanna-
so?
I think so. I mean,
I'm on
he's
board
so
with that.
fucking crazy, dude. It would be
he
awesome.
Is just a
Hey,
lovable
I'm on board
person.
I
with
think
Jerry.
he is.
He's a good
I do. I think he's funny as hell. All right, thanks a lot, you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.